Okay. All right, so we're here. We're back live. Thank you so much for joining me again. I just wanted to, so people that are watching the stream later on, the other stream, it glitched out part of the beginning, so I wanted to let that stream be able to process so YouTube can fix that, whatever, automatically. That whole thing, too, the whole part of him showing the video and going back and forth, I don't know how useful that was. Like, I mean, because we know he lied. Like, I guess the whole new narrative and story, that's good that he brought that out, but like the whole pointing out that video and like, I don't know what he was trying to, I think he might have missed the mark. Waters might have missed the mark on that one. I mean, maybe I'm not understanding what he was doing, maybe. So, Murdaugh, we're going to listen to, I'm going to give it like 2 minutes before we start playing the Nancy Grace thing. But Murdaugh describes his mother's caregiver, Shelley, as a good person, but disputes her account of his conversation with her in the days after the shootings. And we know about that already. The whole, she said that he was visiting his mother for. Smith testified that Murdaugh told if anyone asked, he was visiting his mother for 35 to 40 minutes. That's Avery's notes on Twitter. All right. Let's see what you guys are saying. So we're back live. Hopefully Twitch and Facebook, everybody's over there too. You guys got it. Live stream. Let me open up the new chat as well. Make sure we're synced. And if you guys that are coming over now, if you could re-hit like, you're gonna have to hit like again on the stream. All right. Let's do this. Oh, you know what I wanted to play real quick too? I saw this clip online a little this morning. Let me play this short thing first.
Weapons, and they can be found to be identical to other.
Oh, you know what? This is clips from the podcast, so let's just listen to the podcast. Alex Murdaugh takes the stand in Hail Mary. Want that?
Mom, Dad. Mom.
That guy coming back.
Going back to school, you.
Crime Stories with Nancy Grace.
What's up, folks?
In the last moments, Alex Murdaugh has just stepped down from the witness stand. That's right, Alex Murdaugh on the stand in his own defense, waiving his right to invoke silence under the Fifth Amendment. He has been on direct examination so far. He's hitting a lot of softballs in that courtroom. We're wondering what's going to happen on cross-examination. The jury has just left the courtroom for lunch. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us here at Fox Nation. First of all, here's the biggest thing that happened in the courtroom as he stuttered and stammered, turned red in the face, sucked his teeth, and his mouth went dry. Alex Murdaugh insists he did not kill Maggie and Paul. Take a listen to our cut one.
On June 7th, 2021, did you take this gun or any gun like it and shoot your son Paul in the chest in the feed room at your property off Moselle Road?
No, I did not.
Mr. Murdaugh, did you take this gun or any gun like it and blow your son's brains out on June 7th or any day or any time?
No, I did not.
Mr. Murdaugh, did you take a 300 blackout, such as this, and fire it into your wife Maggie's leg, torso, or any part of her body?
No, I did not.
Did you shoot a 300 blackout into her head, causing her death?
Mr. Griffin, I didn't shoot my wife or my son anytime. Ever.
There you see him sucking his teeth, shaking his head up and down as if saying yes, while his mouth was saying no. He goes on to try and explain why the very night of the murders, just feet away from his wife and son's dead bodies, he started lying to police. Take a listen to our cut 2.
Mr. Murdaugh, is that you? On the kennel video at 8:44 p.m. on June 7th, the night Maggie and Paul were murdered.
It is.
Were you in fact at the kennels at 8:44 p.m. on the night Maggie and Paul were murdered?
I was.
Did you lie to SLED Agent Owen and Deputy Laura Rutland on the night of June 7th and told them that you stayed at the house after dinner?
I did lie to them.
Did you lie to Agent Owen and Agent Croft on the follow-up interview on June 10th that the last time you saw Maggie and Paul was at dinner?
I did lie to them.
And in the interview of August 11th, did you tell Agent Owen and Agent Croft, did you lie to them by telling them that you were not down at the kennels on that night?
Yes.
Okay, with me in All-Star Panel, I'm going to take you back in the courtroom in just a moment so you can see more of Alex Murdaugh's testimony on the stand with me in All-Star Panel. But first, I want to go out to, hold on, do we have Ann Emerson yet? No, she's making her way out, straight out to Eric Bland, connected to this case through the Satterfield family. Eric Bland, I don't get it. He started lying the very night of the murders. How could he even concoct a lie the very night of the murders?
Well, guilty people always concoct lies, Nancy, and it is another lie because he had no reason to distrust the police. He was a solicitor. His grandfather, his father were solicitors. He had no reason to distrust SLED. There was nothing that SLED had done on the night of the murders that he would begin his lying. So the other thing that was, I think that was poignant was he just turned on Michelle Smith, a lovely lady who takes care of his mother, and said she lied about the blue tarp and she lied about the 30 or 40 seconds. So what we have is, if the lies are told by him, there's a reason for it, there's an explanation. But if somebody else tells something that is detrimental to him, they are lying and you need to believe them. Again, he put his hand on the Bible, so we're supposed to believe him today.
That's the whole thing that I brought up last night that I think the prosecutor was trying to do. It's like this whole solicitor thing. He was like, oh, to get that, weren't you supposed to take some sort of oath or something like that? To make the jury feel like, why would he be telling the truth right now?
Even though he's a thief, even though he's a drug addict, and you prosecuted many cases, there's two people that can't. There's two people that can't be removed, Nancy. Thieves and pedophiles, and he's a thief.
Okay, I'm trying to hear through all the commotion at the courthouse. Eric Bland, do you refer to the housekeeper that Murdaugh just said on the stand was lying? And I have it titled in my 20 pages of notes I've taken since he took the stand, The Blue Tarp Lie. Alex Murdaugh says, I did not take a blue tarp or a rain jacket into my mom's home. Now, he also says, I never, quote, fixed witnesses or tried to influence police officers. Now, I'm telling you, number one, you're right, Bland. He is calling that lady a liar, and she was really convincing on the stand, one of the best witnesses they've had, and he has now opened up the door to trying to fix witnesses and influence police officers. Now, I got to tell you something, and this pains me as a former prosecutor. I have not been, for the first time in court, I have not been impressed with the state at all, because they're letting a free flow of narrative. I mean, I said earlier, what's he going to do? Talk about the first time he fell off a bike and scraped his knees when he was a little boy? I mean, how far is this going to go? There needs to be objection, and breaking up that testimony. But, okay, it hasn't happened. Do you think they'll figure out that the door has been opened to influencing officers and fixing testimony?
I do, and I also have been talking to my friends in the courtroom. 6 jurors have turned away from him. So right now, half of the jurors have turned away and are not listening to him. Don't forget, every time he's wrong, he gets a free pass under his testimony.
What does it mean 6 jurors have turned away from him? Like, what? They're not looking at him, you're saying? Like, what? Why?
Oh, I was wrong about the timeline. I was wrong of a couple hours. But every time somebody else gives testimony that's detrimental to him, it's a lie. Nancy, I'm telling you, I trust this justice system, but we're seeing a pollution of it being done by Alex on this witness stand and his own lawyers for countenancing this type of false testimony.
Guys, I'm hearing the other guests trying to break in. I want you to hear one more thing, though. Guys, Christine, could you play?
Let me show you this. So DUI guy posted this on Twitter, and he says, at a bare minimum, we'll have a hung jury, if not acquittal. 0% chance for a guilty verdict now, in my humble opinion, unless Waters has anything else after lunch. And so some of the comments here say, I agree the state has done a horrible job in presenting its case, at times tone deaf. I feel like Waters has something, whatever it is, he needed to get Alex to say something before he got to it, to catch him in a lie. I hope that's the case. There were times where I thought that and it didn't turn out to be anything, and there was times where I did and it did turn out. Like yesterday, the bolt thing, I thought that was pretty cool, like the badge thing. The financial thing maybe a bit too much. And it started again today with more of yesterday's things. And with this, I mean, he would have a better, I don't know, guess or thought about hung or acquittal or whatever. You know, I've been saying that I feel like this guy definitely has some sort of involvement, but again, like, yeah, beyond reasonable doubt that he actually shot the gun. That's like a tough one. That's a tough one. Let me take another look at one of these tweets here. Somebody just sent me. Ooh, oh no. So we can look at different sides. So this is a good tweet too. This D sent this to me. Mr. Murdaugh, if Paranoia made you lie to law enforcement on being at the kennels on June 7th, then why did Paranoia not make you report the social media threats of Paul? Were you not paranoid enough to be worried about security to Buster and you after the murders? That's true too. And well, to that too, I was wondering, like, I guess they had never documented these threats and stuff that they could show in court, you know? I guess so, like at one point he said like maybe they were so crazy, like they didn't take it as is. But I mean, even when I went through my crazy shit, I have a couple of clips of some of the crazy shit that people made. And at least a police report in case you got to do something, you know, from the threats. And I guess they have no kind of documentation. So that's a good tweet too. I really don't know. I wonder how the jury is. But you know, on the other side, I really think the outcome I lean towards as well, maybe a hung jury. I feel like there's going to be some people disagreeing, just like here in the chat, even though a lot of people say guilty. There's got to be at least one person that's, hell nah, I ain't doing that shit. You're giving a hard time. I remember when I did jury duty, that one case, there was one lady that was kind of giving us a hard time. And we all sat there. We're kind of going back and forth, and she finally agreed with us because she wanted to let the guy go scot free. But we had options. I think this is just like murder charges.
Murdaugh's testimony when he's trying to explain why he lied. This is cut 3.
Why did you
This is one
lie
character.
to Agent Owen, Agent Croft, and Deputy Rutland about the last time you saw Maggie and Paul?
As my addiction evolved over time, I would get in these situations or circumstances where I would get paranoid thinking. It could be anything that triggered it. It might be a look somebody gave me. It might be a reaction somebody had to something I did. It might be a policeman following me in a car. That night, June 7th, after finding Mags and Paul, don't talk to anybody without Danny with you. All my partners were just repeatedly telling me that. I'm sitting in a police car with David Owen asking me about my relationship with my wife and my son. And all those things coupled together after finding them, coupled with my distrust for SLED, caused me to have paranoid thoughts.
Okay, now hold on just a moment there. Please, prosecutors, use what he just said. Didn't all the lawyers come up on the stand and state that they were there that night as friends? And now, when your wife and your son are dead on the floor of the dog kennel, their bodies just torn apart with bullets, you're worried about telling the truth because it might make you look bad? Oh, no, that's the time that you tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth because you want to find the real killer. I mean, straight out to Chris McDonough, high profile, former homicide investigator, now star of The Interview Room. Wouldn't you think if... I'm just telling you, I would tell the police whatever they wanted to know right then because I would want their killer caught.
1,000%, Nancy. I mean, you can't script this. What he's doing from the get-go is his testimony is based upon the investigative facts that he has learned up to this date. And he, by pulling in the fact that the very first words out of his mouth, which could backfire 1,000% for the defense, to take on right away, did you lie that evening? I mean, we're watching in real time the way he adapts, the way he deflects, calculates, and then qualifies his answers. And we would call this guy the helper or the salesman. And those 5 steps to a sale: prospect, personalize, promote, create, and close. All he's looking for is one juror to close by his testimony today.
Okay, Eric Bland. Now, Eric, this
Yes,
is
ma'am.
a yes/no answer. Okay? Did you think Murdaugh was going to take the stand?
No.
Okay, I'm with you on that. I thought he may believe he was smart enough to outsmart everybody in the courtroom and want to take the stand, but I thought Hartpulian would, strong arm him not to take the stand. But when they announced that their client wanted to take a bathroom break before the next witness, I'm like, he's taking a stand. He is why else would he want a bathroom break before an extended...
Pop them oxys, you know what I'm saying? Miera on the wall sent me this. I guess this is somebody's theory. Steve Norris. So this is what his thought was. Let me show you this. I've said it all along. Alex Murdaugh shot the gun from the golf cart. This explains the low angle and how a 6'4" guy could position the gun the way it was shot, the way it was when the shots were fired. I don't know, man. From the golf cart, it's very easy for him to drive down to the kennels from the house with the 2 guns, at least, in the golf cart, concealed or unconcealed. Finally, he used the garden hose to wash to wash all the blood spatter off the golf cart and then drove away back to the house. For the love of God, have they tested the golf cart for blood? I bet they'll find it, no matter how much he cleaned it. As 2 shots rang out on Paul, Maggie started running, then chased her down in the golf cart. In front of Hanger, and shot her 4 to 5 times with a .300 blackout assault rifle. And shortly after the Paul Cash video, simply drove the golf cart to the feed room, after the Paul Cash video, simply drove the golf cart to the feed room, fired the first chest shot into Paul. Paul starts to stumble towards the door, and then Alex fires the fatal shot from the golf cart that blew his brains out. I have to admit, this golf cart theory seemed ridiculous to me for a few long days, but now I believe it. Yes, and I remember earlier testimony about Maggie having golf cart tire track mark on her leg. Oh no. But I think that was like dirt or something, right? Oh Lord. But yeah, what do you guys think about the golf cart theory? Golf cart gate. Golf gate. He's on tape during Paul's Cash video when Bubba comes running up. Alex Murdaugh calls out Bubba's name, saying, "Come here, Bubba." Huh. I don't know. I've said it all along, too. He was sitting on that golf cart. They didn't test for blood nor take any measurements of a 6'4" person sitting in the cart. Ooh. I have heard people thinking about the ATV thing. Golf cart gate. I don't know. Huh. Doubtful. I think you're right. Bingo. This is easily debunked by scientific evidence, even from the state's witness. There's a ton of issues with this theory. All right, let's keep going.
Period of time on the stand. I'm thinking about what's really happening here, Eric. I think this is what's happening. Yeah, go ahead.
Ordinarily, there isn't a defense attorney in the world that would recommend to his client under these circumstances, given all the other 404B evidence that has come in, and once you get on the stand, you waive your fifth, to take the stand. However, I think in Alex's mind, he's saying, Nancy, look, I'm going to be convicted of all the financial crime stuff, and I'm going to get LWOP, life without parole, probably on that stuff. So what do I have to lose? That's kind of, I believe, his thought process. I think it's bad because if you get convicted of murder, it's 30 to life. And I think this judge, if he gets a conviction on murder, is going to give him life, whereas under the financial crimes, maybe he gets 40 years, maybe he gets 30, then you get in state time 52% time off. He gets out maybe when he's 67, 60, 70 years old. I think it was the worst decision by lawyers I've ever seen, but I could be proven wrong if there's that one juror.
Eric, let's just get real. Are you telling me that the state of South Carolina would keep a thief in jail and use up bed space when they want to put a child molester?
That's what I've heard people saying that too, like these financial crime stuff, that he'd probably be, I don't know, what, can't they just put something around his ankle and send him home or something? Would he really do big numbers? Do these people ever with these financial crimes? I shouldn't say ever, but a lot of times these white collar crimes, they just like get a little slap on the wrist for a year to a couple years or something. I don't know. They're out.
A killer, a serial killer, somebody that's a bomber or an arsonist. Oh no, they're taking that bed, and the thief, the white collar criminal, they're getting out. He won't be in there 15 years. He won't even be in there 10 years on $9 million theft. That's not going to happen. Do I like it? No. Is it true? Yes. He'll probably get out on all that theft in about 8-9 years max, because they need the bed space. That's the harsh reality.
Hey, this is the big one for him to overcome, this murder thing. The other shit, he might be able to still get out and live life. I mean, how old is this guy now? Alec Murdaugh? Alec. I imagine, you know what I was thinking about the other day too? I was like, when we're doing jury watch, I don't know what we're going to do for jury watch, but when we're doing jury watch, and I really wonder how long it's going to take for these people to come up with their decision, if they come to one. I'll 10 for each. The intensity though, like once we get to hear what the verdict. Let me play this.
Plant-based ingredients with podcast.
Future. We put smart investing CEO for a 25
places and insights only locals would know.
Crime Stories with Nancy Grace.
Now, this is what I was going to tell everybody. Everybody on the panel, jump in on this. This is what's happening. The defense
63.
waits. They listen to the state's case. They write down everything they need to explain away, online. And you practice with the client.
Could be wrong,
then you
this
put him
website.
on the stand, and you have him respond to all of those issues. This testimony is carefully.
So the website says 64. Can't trust these sites. I don't know who's right.
Constructed after the defense has seen the state's case, and now they are responding to issues brought up by the state. That is what is happening right now. Eric, could you explain that?
Yeah, it's a total rehearsed Broadway performance. And like the first guest said, he's been crafting this story over the last 2 years as he's learned more and more evidence. However, his answers are too polished, and there's 24 ears and 24 eyes on that jury, and they can smell the BS meter a mile away. And it's just too many coincidences, too many explanations. I don't believe it's going to hold water. However, there could be one juror, but I also disagree with you on the aspect of the sentencing. Don't forget that the federal government is waiting to charge him on all the money laundering crimes.
Well, that's a whole nother thing.
There's 50.
The reason they're not doing that
you
is
get the
because
feds in it, and he's looking at serious jail time. But if it's just state theft, oh yeah, he'll be out 7 or 8 years. Now, I can tell you this. According to Alex Murdaugh, he was, quote, afraid and distrustful of SLED, law enforcement, the night of the murders. But as Bland has just pointed out, he was a local solicitor, a prosecutor. You're not afraid of the cops. They're your best witnesses on the stand. So why was he afraid of them now? Lo and behold, the night of the murders. I want you to hear him talking about his paranoid thoughts in our cut 3.
Why did you lie to Agent Owen, Agent Croft, and Deputy Rutland about the last time you saw Maggie and Paul?
As my addiction evolved over time, I would get in these situations or circumstances where I would get paranoid thinking. And it could be anything that triggered it. It might be a look somebody gave me. It might be a reaction somebody had to something I did. It might be a policeman following me in a car. That night, June 7th, after finding Mags and Papa, don't talk to anybody without Danny with you. All my partners were just repeatedly telling me that. I'm sitting in a police car with David Owen asking me about my relationship with my wife and my son. And all those things coupled together after finding them coupled with my distrust for SLED, caused me to have paranoid thoughts.
Caused me to have paranoid thoughts. But he didn't have any paranoid thoughts until he got in the car with the police. Then he started lying.
Nancy.
Yeah, jump in quickly.
Can you imagine a solicitor telling the world I shouldn't cooperate with the police when my wife and my son are murdered? Can you imagine a lawyer who took an oath to uphold the Constitution and the law, and he's a solicitor, is advocating from the witness stand, don't cooperate with the police when your wife and son are murdered?
You know, another thing I noticed, joining me, I'm hearing in my ear right now, Ann Emerson is with us, senior investigative reporter, WCIV, and star of Unsolved South Carolina, the Murdaugh murders, money, and mystery. And another thing I saw him doing very artfully is explaining why he didn't hear the gunshots. He said that, and it was very circuitous. He claimed that Maggie had asked him to come out to the kennel, don't know why, and that he had said no, that he and Maggie had eaten and he had been sweating, took a shower, he laid down on the sofa, but then suddenly he has a change of heart and goes to see his mom. Now listen to this. He said he laid down. He just artfully wove this in. I had the air conditioner going. The TV was always going.
I gotta show you guys.
And I just left to go see my mom. And then I texted them, why not just go?
I opened up this video on my phone first in case I was getting trolled. In case somebody, I don't know, because he was saying something crazy. I was like, let me check what he's saying before I open it. Kelvin, thank you, man. Let me. I was like, what is this? I was like, uh-oh, man, somebody's trolling me because I couldn't see what he was saying. So let me just open it up on my phone before I play it in case. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Mel, love your coverage. By the way, SLED. Hey, Mel, love your coverage.
Shit.
By the way, SLED.
SLED. Them SLED boys get down and dirty, man. Now that everything's getting exposed, they'll turn on his ass. They're all taking the freebies and all of the shit that came with it until this guy got caught up and all the shit got exposed. And so now they got to throw him under the bus and shit. It was all good until this guy got on all this shit. SLED taking him freebies.
Down to the kennel and go, hey, I'm leaving, guys. Because that did not fit into his scenario. I mean, he laid it all out, and I had the air conditioning going, so I couldn't hear. The TV was going, so I couldn't hear. He laid it all out very artfully, Ann.
He absolutely did, Nancy. And if you're watching him, he's watching the jurors. That's what he was doing. He is absolutely, trying this case, right? He is a lawyer on the stand. So he's looking at the jury the entire time, gauging their reaction, waiting for good pauses. He's been working on this story since he felt like he needed to. As soon as he needed to come up with all of these, to weave in all of this information that you're talking about, from the television that was on to the AC, it just fits perfectly with what he needs the jurors to understand about what was going on that night.
Okay. I'm just pausing real quick. A lot of the stuff we kind of heard already. This is, I think, a podcast from yesterday. I still like to hear Nancy's stuff, but St. Pat Bratt says NBC reported 2 jurors were crying during Alex's testimony. Listening to James from court said this is absolutely not true. So weird. So NBC says there was 2 jurors crying. James from court, which we listened to this guy yesterday on DUI Guy. We listened to him and he told us like they were kind of like, it seemed like they were over it. Like there was one lady supposedly covering her face. James from court. Let me see if this guy has a Twitter. Just wondering if he's made any posts. James from court. Okay. Oh, he has a big following. All right. Oh, he hasn't really updated besides this morning. Okay. Embassy line like Alec.
So it is absolutely, it is feels very much a story that he has been able to work through in his mind and get to where he needs to, and felt like he was ready to do it today. So he went off.
Guys, I got to tell you something. As much as I think Alex Murdaugh murdered his wife and son, he is doing a really good job on the stand. Now, granted, this is direct examination. It's rehearsed. He knows exactly what's going to come next, and he's doing a good job. And like Ann Emerson is saying, he's looking right at the jury, right in the face like a snake charmer, going back and forth. He says something, he watches their reaction. Then he says something else, then he watches their reaction. He's looking right at them. And if you've been in that courtroom, you know he's only about maybe 10, 12 feet away from them. He's up close and personal with the jurors. Now, take a listen to our cut 7 as he is describing his wife, now dead, asking him to come down to the kennels.
She said like a snake charmer. Like, what? I don't know. Who came up with this picture? Street performer, snake charmer. Alex was pulling like a snake charming ability with the jurors.
Our cut 7.
Maggie wanted to go to the kennels. I had eaten dinner. I laid back on the couch where I was sitting. Maggie wanted to go to the kennels, and she asked me to go. And I didn't go at that time. I didn't want to go.
Why didn't you want to go?
It was hot. I just had a shower. I knew I'd end up doing more work, sweating more. The dogs is always a chaotic scene, and I just didn't want to go right then. She left and Pawpaw was gone.
And did you stay in the house?
Yes.
For how long?
Not long. I laid back on the couch, put my feet up, and like many times when Maggie asked me to do something that I didn't want to do or didn't start out doing, I changed my mind and decided I'm going to ride up there. And I did.
And how did you get to the kennels?
I went on a golf cart.
Which would explain why we don't see his car door open up and close or any movement on the GPS system. Now, am I supposed to believe that he took a shower that night before 9 o'clock, and that the next day, well into the next day, when the housekeeper gets there, she finds water still around the floor? Is that what we're supposed to believe? But now I want you to listen how comfortable he is as he's talking about something I don't think he's lying about. And that would be the kennels, the sunflowers, the dogs, all of that, which may have actually been true. He doesn't look away. He doesn't turn red. He doesn't suck on his lips. His mouth doesn't go dry. Take a listen to our cut 8.
Grady's chasing the guineas. Paul's fooling with Rogan's dog Cash. Maggie's just kind of standing there watching the dogs. Bubba catches the chicken.
What'd you do after you got the chicken out of Bubba's mouth?
I got out of there. I left. I went back to the house.
And what'd you do when you got back to the house?
I lay down on the couch. I'm not positive. I dozed off for a minute or didn't doze off for a minute, but I got up off of the couch and I made up my mind I was going to visit my mom.
Okay, straight out to Dr. Angela Arnold, renowned psychiatrist at AngelaArnoldMD.com. Weigh in, Dr. Angie.
You know, Nancy, one of the things that I'm wondering about is this paranoia that he talks about. And if he was so paranoid, then I do not understand why he wasn't paranoid when he came upon his dead son and wife, that someone was going to be laying in wait to kill him.
It's so weird.
I don't understand why he wasn't scared about that. And
yeah, I'd be paranoid as hell too, I guess. For for sure. My family was killed like that. Couple of things. LS, thank you for the super chat earlier. Thank you for the 5. Appreciate that. And Callie, Sandy, how you doing? 10 months member. Amazing, Mel, to give you love back for the love and care you give us and support you gave me the past 18 months. Thank you. Doing a good job, and you rock your channel. Wine on the way. Yo, call me sometime. I think I've sent you my number. I don't know. I don't know. We keep missing each other, but especially once I move. If the wine comes, I'm going to save it. If it comes before I move, I'm going to save it to when I move so I can open it up. I forgot what. She said she was sending me some gangster, really nice wine. I'll save it. Can send you a video. Elsa says here, I should DM me. I just watched DUI Guys live, and he talked to James, who was present in court today, and he said no one of the jury cried yesterday. The news media lied. He also said that one juror covered her face and didn't want to look at Alec, and then the end there was and then the end there were the bailiff situation. It was because of some juror having an issue about something. What? I'm telling you, those jurors might be getting kind of antsy, bro. I've been saying this for a while now. From the really very beginning, right before this thing even, like, I don't know how many, we were 2 weeks in maybe or something. There was already somebody talking about like, yo, I only have 3 weeks. Like, we need to get this shit going. Right? Have we lost a couple of jurors? So, all right. Maybe it was just an honest mistake from the media. I don't know. The jury's there crying. But the only thing, too, is like, that's kind of wild to me that the woman would cover her face. But maybe it's the mucus, though, because I had a friend yesterday tell me that the whole mucus thing kind of makes her, like, she has to, like, look away. She can't do it. And so maybe it was, like, the thing of the mucus that was, like, for some people, it makes them cringe or like, you know, I don't know.
You know, you can't turn paranoia on and off. Also, I completely agree with you,
like
Nancy. It's funny how there will be times when he's running through his repertoire about what went on, and it does sound a little bit more believable. But I think he talks too much. I think that's why they're letting him talk. He says things that maybe he shouldn't be saying, and he's giving people more information than they're even asking for. I find that very interesting also, and I think that they're going to use that against him at some point.
He is often, so people like that, you just let him talk, bro. So I mean, I've seen in other cases and stories, like these interviews with some of these parents, like the West Boys or like Christopher Watts or whatever. When they start offering all that extra shit, they got a story for everything and extra this and that, let them talk. Let them talk. It could be to your advantage, especially, who knows, I think you could potentially open the doors to other things.
But the paranoia is a big thing. Does he turn his paranoia on and off? And why wasn't he scared that he was going to be shot when he came across their 2 bodies at the kennel?
Yeah, you know, Dr. Michelle Dupree, pathologist, medical examiner, former detective. Dr. Dupree, his paranoia that evening only sets in when the cops start talking to him. I mean, if you're paranoid because of drugs, wouldn't you be crazy paranoid when you find 2 dead bodies and run from the scene and go hide in the car or get away? I mean, if you're paranoid due to drug addiction, he seemed to hold it in check to call 911 and speak coherently on the phone. But when the cops start questioning him, the paranoia sets in?
Exactly, Nancy. Again, I think this whole thing is bogus. I think that he has a very carefully crafted explanation for the discrepancies in the state's case. I think that he is too emphatic when he makes the denials of some of these things. And I think that he is trying so hard to discredit some very, very credible witnesses like Shelley. I don't think it's really working. I hope the jury can see through this, because when he does talk about the sunflower field and other things, it just rolls right off the tongue very easily, but not so much when you start talking about the details of what really happened that night.
Yeah, you know what, Dr. Michelle Dupree, you're right.
That's true, Rosie said. Rosie said, I I'm on some Alec shit right here. Rolly said, Mel, you always try to believe the best in everyone. I'm the same though. Yeah, I guess that's how I get into some of the mess that I get into, I guess. But maybe with time, it won't always be like that. Maybe I'll adapt and evolve and learn. I was talking to Sybil the other day. I was catching up. We haven't really talked much lately, but I was talking to them the other day, and we were talking about just like women in general and stuff. And I was telling him, like, man, I've been really kind of learning some stuff. And he's like, man, you just got to be ruthless. I was like, all right, thanks, bro. Like, yeah, man, just got to be ruthless. That's how you handle it. I was like, all right. Oh my God. I started.
All right, take a listen to Our Cut 5. It's exactly what she just said.
I'd known that CB, the guy that worked for us, had sprayed the sunflowers. I knew about that, but I'd been out of town. I didn't know they were dead. Paul let me know they had died. So we had to replant the Dove field. Just it's a big social part of having property. People would come, and so the Dove field was a big deal. So when the sunflowers got killed, we knew they were dead. Paul was coming home.
Mr. Murdaugh, if you take a 300 blackout, such as this, and fire it into your wife Maggie's leg, torso, or any part of her body?
No, I did not.
Did you shoot a 300 blackout into her head, causing her death?
Mr. Griffin, I didn't shoot my wife or my son anytime. Ever.
I hear Eric Bland jumping in. Go ahead, Eric.
There's two things that I think are really important. One happened with Nolan Tootin, the witness before Alex this morning, that is really interesting. He confirmed that no one would ever know where Paul would be staying. He could be staying in Charleston, Somerville, Columbia, Greenville. So how would a killer know where he was going to be that night in order to come and kill him because of the boating accident? That's number one. And number two, the thing that really bothers me more than anything, Alex called 13 different people and texted 4 different people, including Paul's best friend, 3 times, and called him before he called his only living son, Buster, 40 minutes later to tell him that his mother and brother were killed. I find that very curious.
I want to follow up on what you just said, Eric Bland and Emerson. I want you to take a listen to Our Cut 13. Now think about what Eric Bland just pointed out, and he's right. If this was somehow a hit on Paul Murdaugh because of the boat crash killing Mallory Beach, and Maggie just happened to be there at the time, how would anyone have known how to find Paul Murdaugh? And I want you to take a listen, him already developing an alternate reality in Our Cut 13. Listen.
Oh, should I know?
Allie, we just heard you say, I should have known. What are you referring to?
I said, Paul, I should have known.
What were you referring to?
I was referring to Paul got so many threats.
All right, I'm gonna head out. I have to leave this on pause. The audio. I don't want audio to overlap while I'm away. I'll be back like in probably by 20 minutes. This will be back at 2:15. So I don't want to miss. Hopefully I don't miss much. But I will be back. If you guys want to chill out, go eat something, maybe go watch another. I shouldn't tell you guys to leave, but if you want to go watch another channel, you can if you want. But come back though. Infamous Truth Teller, thank you for becoming a member. Catherine, thank you for becoming a supporter on Facebook. See you too. So happy for you and your baby girl on your move. Thank you. Just thank you. I'll be talking with you guys. I sometimes want to share more of my story, like my personal shit. But because of especially this last year, really taught me a lot that, most people have, or they're not crazy, but you have those small groups of people that are crazy, or people that are just watching you just to monitor when you're here, when you're gone, what's your schedule like, where you live, in a malicious way, or they want to use things against you, and so they're taking notes and shit. So that's why I sometimes kind of like I'll hold back a little bit and stuff. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's a really good thing. It's a great thing for Maddie, and bigger plays, and it just for so many reasons. Maybe I'll talk about it in a members video or something someday. But yeah, it's just a good thing, And I'm glad that you guys could kind of be here with me too for the ride, From the other place, from Comcast, from streaming. When I was having issues and Comcast was cutting out, from when the internet was so crappy that I had to go to Walmart to upload a video connected to their Wi-Fi, to moving to this little place here, the crazy ride last year was, and then getting a bigger place. And so yeah, I'm really happy about that. And hopefully, who knows, greater pastures next year, hopefully a house. But yeah, that's the only reason I try to because especially with last year with some of these crazy people online are trying to hunt me down and stuff, Oh yeah, the parenting, single parenting, I would have never thought I'd be like this, I mean, it's better off anyway though, but definitely has its challenges, especially when you try to co-parent, which is not really happening. So, but all right, I'll be back. Be back.
Mr. Griffin, you wanted to put something on the record?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. During cross-examination of Mr. Murdaugh, he had testified that in relation to the financial crimes that he had tried to meet with the Attorney General's office, and that on multiple occasions, and that he had, from the get-go, had always been willing to sit down with them. He was specifically talking about the financial investigation and the charges which he received as a result of those investigations. Following up to that questioning, that answer, Mr. Waters then went to Mr. Murdaugh's testimony and the information he provided about being down at the kennel, and he said you had never provided that information to law enforcement and other people until today or yesterday. And Your Honor, that is a direct violation of Doyle v. Ohio, where the Supreme Court said that cross-examining the defendant about his failure to have told an exculpatory story after receiving Miranda warnings at the time of his arrest is a due process violation. The court goes on to say the defendant's post-arrest silence cannot be used against him, violates due process. And that's exactly what happened on cross-examination. So I want to make clear the grounds for our objection. Also would like to move to strike the question, strike the answer, and get a curative jury instruction that they are not to consider any failure of the defendant to come forward with exculpatory information after his arrest relating to the murder charges. Thank you.
Mr. Waters.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Clearly, this defendant has given statements on multiple occasions, and that operates as a waiver under Doyle. Additionally, my question was not so limited as Mr. Griffin says, and it was in fact the defendant who made a point of saying that he had repeatedly tried to talk and put that in issue, at which point this was directly responsive to what he brought up. Additionally, this was also, all that was discussed were public statements of his counsel, who is an agent on his behalf and attributable to him. So there's no Doyle violation here. If Mr. Murdaugh had claimed his right to silence from the beginning and had kept that throughout, then the state would be precluded from commenting on the exercise of his right to remain silent. But one thing we know about Mr. Murdaugh is he has not remained silent at any point during this process, and he's the one that brought up this false claim that he had been begging to tell the kennel story, when in fact he did not do so till yesterday.
Doyle primarily addresses the issue of post-arrest silence. If an accused is silent following an arrest, then it's improper to comment on the post-arrest silence. It does not allow an accused or a person who's suspected to give contradictory information or to voluntarily give a statement or to voluntarily give a misstatement, as has been acknowledged here. I do not find any Doyle violation, and the record is protected. I certainly understand the defense raising any and all possible issues, and they can be raised, and you've done it here. The record is protected, but all motions are denied. Let's bring the jury. present, sir. Very good. You may proceed.
May it please the court, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Murdaugh, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Give that mic up a little bit, please.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
There we go.
When we left off, we were talking about at what point during that interview in the car with Dave Owen that you decided to start lying about the murders of your wife and son. I'm going to pick up this video real quick. Not going to play the whole thing, but I'm going to start from 2 minutes and 9 seconds.
Just start to talk, take your time.
Like when I came back here, I mean, I pulled up and I could see him, and, you know, I knew something was bad. I ran out. I knew it was really bad. And my boy over there, I could see it was. And I could see his brain on. And I ran over to Maggie, and actually, I think I tried to turn Paul over first. You know, I tried to turn him over, and I don't know, I figured it out. His cell phone popped out of his pocket. I started to try to do something with it, thinking maybe, but then I put it back down really quickly. Then I went to my wife, and I mean, I could see.
Did you touch Maggie at all?
I did. I touched them both.
Okay.
I tried to take, I tried to do it as limited as possible, but I tried to take their pulse on both of them. And, you know, I called 911 pretty much right away, and she was very good. I talked to her. I told her I was going to get off the phone to call some family members. I did that.
What family members did you call?
I called my brother Randy, and I called my brother John. And I tried to call a little boy, real good friend that's right around the corner from here, but I didn't get him.
What all was around Paul when you walked up?
Blood.
Anything else?
I mean, there was some body things, yes, sir.
I mean, like any other evidence? I know you said the phone fell out of the pocket, but did you see anything else that didn't belong or shouldn't belong or that wasn't part of Paul?
No, sir, not good. No, sir.
How about Maggie?
No, sir.
You didn't see anything around them? What made you come out here tonight?
I went to, my mom's a late stage Alzheimer's patient. My dad's in the hospital. My mom gets anxious when she does. I went to check on them and Maggie. Maggie's a dog lover. And she fools with the dogs. And I knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at the house.
Just to be clear, you say you hadn't made the conscious decision to start lying about your wife and son's murder right there, correct?
I don't believe so.
Okay, well, let's continue on.
Mr. Waters, I can't tell you exactly when that decision occurred.
Okay. You can't describe to the jury the moment you decided to lie about your wife and son's murder.
I can't tell you exactly when that moment occurred.
I left the house and went.
But you did say earlier that when David Owen asked you about your relationships, that was a trigger point, correct?
Well, that was certainly one of the things that contributed or made me paranoid.
Okay.
Now, you know, there were already things that had gone on that occurred, as I said, that put me in that mindset.
Yeah.
But exactly when I decided to lie about that, I can't tell you.
So the things again, you talked about your dope paranoia, the fact they'd taken GSR, and you talked about the advice of your law partners and Sheriff Hill and Greg Alexander, and then you talked about your distrust of SLED somehow from the circumstances and demeanor of this interview right here, correct?
No, my distrust from SLED didn't arise from this interview. My distrust for SLED arose from a couple of things, and it's really several things. It arose from the way they had been involved in, SLED had been involved in the investigation into Paul's criminal charges, and they had been involved in, there was an issue that had gone on with some rumors about Buster and Paul. They had been involved in that, where, you know, Buster nor Paul had anything to do with what I'm talking about, and SLED never said that, even though they told their lawyer that. They never say that. And there had been another incident where SLED had charged Greg Alexander, my friend in this case. They charged him, and in fact, I thought the agent that was involved in that was David Owen, but the charges against Greg Alexander were so, they were so wrong that my dad and I made a conscious decision, even though he was a career prosecutor, made a decision to go to the courthouse and sit with Greg Alexander while his trial went on, because
This was like 10 years ago, right?
it was a while back,
Yeah.
you know. But
You don't know if Dave Owen was at SLED 10 years ago.
No, I checked on that, because that night, the officer who was involved in that case in bringing clearly manufactured charges against Greg Alexander.
So you're saying the night before you sat down for this interview, you were asking somebody about whether or not something about Greg Alexander 10 years ago in the wake of what had occurred?
Oh, no, I didn't ask anybody.
Okay, so that wasn't what you were discussing when you were sitting in this car?
No, I wasn't discussing that. I'm just telling you that I thought David Owen was the same agent that was involved in that case. Now, I learned later, because I checked on it, I learned later that it was a different David, SLED agent, first name David with a different last name. I learned that later. I'm just saying that was all part of that process going on in my mind.
So you're saying that you're sitting here right now thinking that this Dave Owen and this circumstances and demeanor of this interview, you're thinking that guy had been involved in the prosecution or investigation of your friend 10 years ago?
I did.
Okay, so here's a new one you just mentioned to us, correct?
No, that's not a new one.
Okay.
That's part of.
I mean, the circumstances are new. I mean,
No,
that's fairly
no.
specific, don't you think?
Well, no, sir.
I mean, the story keeps evolving. Keep going.
No, you asked me about this, Mr. Owen. What I said is part of this whole, I mean, Mr. Waters, part of this whole process involved my distrust for SLED. That was a big part of my distrust for SLED.
Yeah, we can all see it on your face in this interview, can't we?
I don't know.
All right. But you said what you just said a little bit ago, that wasn't the lie, that wasn't the conscious decision yet, so let's keep going.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I don't believe that it was. I don't
Okay.
know exactly when I made the decision to lie about that.
All right.
All right?
Well, if you see it, let me know, okay? I want to go forward.
To my mom's
You still going through this?
for just a little while. Tried to call her when I left. Texted her, no response. When I got back to the house was obviously nobody was in there, so I figured they're still up here fooling around. Paul was gonna be getting set up to plant. Our sunflower seeds got sprayed and died, and he was refiguring to plant the sunflower seeds. So I came back up here and I drove up and saw and called.
Had Maggie and Paul been arguing over anything?
No.
What was their relationship like?
Wonderful.
Wonderful. How about yours and Maggie's?
Wonderful. I mean, I'm sure we had little things here and there, but we had a wonderful marriage, wonderful relationship.
And yours and Paul's relationship?
As good as it could be.
How old was Paul?
22.
Okay.
So that was the moment, right there, that line of questioning, just asking some very general questions about your relationship. You mentioned that before, didn't you, Mr. Murdaugh? Is that the moment right there? Is that the look on your face when you decide to lie about an important fact in your wife and son's murder?
I don't know, as I said, Mr. Waters, I don't know the exact point that I made that decision.
You specifically earlier mentioned that very exchange as somehow triggering you to lie about the last time you saw them alive.
No, I'm not saying that that's what made me lie. I'm saying this whole set of circumstances caused me to be in a state where I had paranoid thoughts.
Okay.
That normally, Mr. Waters, I could take a deep breath and make go away in a second or 2 seconds or 3 seconds at the most. And on this night, I wasn't able to do that. But all of those things that I mentioned, I believe contributed to that.
Okay. Any more you want to add now, since you keep adding them?
I'd be glad to answer any question you have.
Well, I mean, I'm asking you. I mean, the factors have gone from yesterday to today, and now even after lunch, we got some new ones. So anything else you want to add right now as to factors?
Mr. Waters, I don't believe that I've added any new factors. I believe that's what I said yesterday.
All right.
I've explained some of those factors because of your questions, but I don't believe I've added any factors.
Okay. All right, let me move this forward just a little bit.
Okay, so most of this was stuff from between a couple of them, but not.
Yesterday in great detail about the boat case, which you brought up on the 911 call and to Daniel Green, and then of course in this first interview, correct?
I did mention the boat wreck.
All right, and you described that. Do you remember what you said in this interview about the boat wreck?
Not specifically.
About specifically the other people involved in the boat wreck? You don't remember specifically? Do you remember specifically? I guess you said no.
I remember talking about the boat wreck, and I know that I talked about the boat wreck.
All right. Well,
Change your mind now.
From 1714.
Any direct threats between any of the people on the boat specifically, but I do think there's been a small amount of yip-yap between a couple of them, but not recently.
Okay.
What was the term you used for that? A small amount of yip-yap?
Yeah, and just to be clear, Mr. Waters, there was never, ever a point in time where I thought that the people that were involved in the boat wreck did this to Paul and Maggie. Okay. I've never thought that.
All right. I never thought that, but it's literally one of the first things that you said out of the 911 call.
Nah, that's not what I said. I never, ever, ever under any point in time believed that those kids that were riding in that boat or their parents or their families, I didn't believe that any of the families, the people that were involved in the boat wreck had anything to do with hurting Maggie and Paul. Okay. But I can tell you that at that time, and as I sit here today, that I believe that boat wreck is the reason why Paul and Maggie were killed.
Okay.
And I'm certain.
So
I believe that.
It was random vigilantes, the 5'2" vigilantes, huh?
No, what I believe, Mr. Waters, is I believe that when Paul was charged criminally, there were so many leaks, half-truths, half-reports, half-statements, partial information, misrepresentations of Paul that ended up in the media all the time. And when I tell you the social media response that came from that was vile, the things that were said about what they would do to Paul, they were so over the top that nobody would believe anybody would get on social media and do that. But I believe then, and I believe today, that the wrong person saw and read that.
Okay.
Because I can tell you for a fact that the person or people who did what I saw on June the 7th, they hated Paul Murdaugh, and they had anger in their heart. And that is the only reason that somebody could be mad at Paul like that and hate him like that.
Gotcha. All right, so we've got now.
But that's why I did then believe it was the boat wreck, and I believe now that the boat wreck had something to do with it.
All right, so we've got random vigilantes because of the boat wreck.
Now, I don't know that they're random vigilantes.
Well, you just said it wasn't the family or the kid, or the kids or the family of the other kids in the boat, right? So you're saying it's somebody off of social media, and you don't have any evidence of that, do you? You just believe that. You're just telling that jury that as you try to explain the lie that you told for the first time yesterday. Isn't that right?
No, sir, that's not right.
It's not right. All right. Well, let me ask you a question then. So what you're telling this jury is that it's a random vigilante.
That's your
the 12-year-old, the 12-year-old 5'2" people that just happened to know that Paul and Maggie were both at Moselle on June 7th. That knew that they would be at the kennels alone on June the 7th, that knew that you would not be there, but only between the times of 8:49 and 9:02, that they show up without a weapon, assuming that they're going to find weapons and ammunition there, that they commit this crime during that short time window, and then they travel the same exact route that you do around the same time to Alameda. That's what you're trying to tell this jury?
You got a lot of factors in there, Mr. Waters, all of which I do not agree with, but some of which I do.
Man, bro.
All right.
Damn. Brain's going hard. I don't know. We're going hard. Trump said he's reaching, Your Honor. Yeah.
You testified earlier that after this happened, well, let me back up just real quick. When you were driving to and from Alameda, why were you in such a hurry? Why are you rolling 70, 80 miles an hour down that dark, beat up road?
I wasn't in such a hurry.
You weren't?
No, sir.
All right. Show you what's been marked as States 573. See if you recognize this.
I do.
And tell the jury what that is.
It's Mag's car.
All right. And what's it in front of?
The house at Moselle.
And what's between the house and the Mercedes?
The golf cart.
Is that where it was on June the 8th, to your recollection?
No, sir.
Where was it left?
I mean, it was near there, but that's not exactly where it was. No, sir.
Okay, where was it?
Where we would normally park it would be a little bit closer to the sheds. I mean, a little bit closer to the house, to the bushes.
Okay. Your Honor, this.
When was that photograph taken?
Well, do you recognize when it was taken?
No, I don't recognize. No,
You
sir.
wouldn't dispute that it was around the time in the aftermath of the murders, would you?
Aftermath being when?
I'm asking you.
A day, a week, an hour?
I wasn't there, Mr. Murdaugh. Do you recognize those?
I recognize the car, I recognize the house, and I recognize the golf cart. But that is not, that's not exactly how it would have been that night.
Can you describe to me then where it would be different?
Well, it would be more in line with, first things first is when we drove the golf cart, or when I drove it for sure, and I believe when the others drove it, you would come in and you would go across the little brick walkway that's in front of this. So if I would have come in and gone this way, or I would have come in and gone this way. This is not a place that any of my family would have normally parked it. And so what I'm assuming is this obviously is taken at daytime. And what I'm assuming is it was taken when SLED came to the earliest it was taken was when SLED came to the house the next day, which I believe the testimony is in the afternoon. And at this point in time, that golf cart, I would assume, would have been moved several times, but that's not how it was.
Well, where did you leave the golf cart when you got out of it around 8:49?
In the manner in which I just talked about.
Okay. Well, help me out again so I understand. You would have come around this way or that way, but where was it? Where would it end up?
It would have been, in this picture, is facing to the right.
Oh, I got you.
The night that I drove it, I believe I parked it facing to the left.
I understand.
Would be customarily how I did it, and I believe I did it that way that night.
Okay. Well, that's all right.
And that is how I would have gotten into it.
All right. That's a very specific memory. Thank you. All right. At this
Well,
time,
that's
the
just how it
state would
normally
offer State's 573 evidence. No objection.
Admit it without objection.
All right, let's see. What do you got?
Very briefly.
What you got up that sleeve? It would have been good if they actually had tested that cart. I guess SLED didn't do it. SLED.
And see, Mr. Waters, you can see in the picture now that you bring this up on the screen, if you look to the right, you can see the actual steps. And just to the left of that would be where the little brick patio starts. So where I would normally park it, you would roll across those bricks and the end of the golf cart would be just past those. And we all normally parked it that way because the way you charge this golf cart is if you see that back seat that's sitting, you can see the edge. This is a 3-seat golf cart, and you can see the back seat. And a lot of golf carts have the charger. This golf cart has a charger that's plugged in and a part of the golf cart. So you flip that seat up, and it plugs in. And the outlets are right up there by the door.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about that?
I'm going to answer any questions you have, Mr. Waters.
Well, I appreciate all that information in great detail. Judge, you did a comment.
Oh, he like to come.
All right.
Oh, you're going to take the rest of the day with this
Just
one.
never parked that way. By the family.
Have the computer back, please. What's up? Mr. Murdaugh, I'm going to put up the second interview. This would have been June the 10th. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I do want to go through a couple of things with you, okay?
Anything you want to go through, Mr. Waters?
I apologize, got ahead of myself. I want to do one last thing on the first one.
So he's about to be done?
For the record, I'm going to start
I forget the guy's name.
I'm going to start it at 23:55. This is the first interview.
Maggie's been having trouble with her. She's been having trouble with her stomach and her tooth. I'm not positive. It was sort of a routine visit, and I can't remember. She told me the name of him, and I can't. I want to say Gordine is who I think she saw.
So was she back home around supper time? Or 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock?
I don't think she got back quite that early. I think she got back a little bit later than that.
Okay. What did you do today? Were you at the office or?
No, I was home. I came home. Paula and I messed around. I was up at the house. I laid down, took a nap on the couch, probably, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes. I got up, I called Maggie, didn't get an answer, and I left to go to my mom's. She had said she might ride with me, but she normally doesn't when I go over there. And I think I texted her.
There, when you repeated the lie that you decided?
Was that the moment that I
Was that the
decided
moment you decided to lie to mean old Dave Owen?
I don't know. As I told you, Mr. Waters, the exact moment that I decided to lie, but at that point in time.
But you did lie there, correct?
I did.
Okay.
And she's very good about answering the phone, so that was odd, or calling me back. So that was odd, but it wasn't that big a deal.
Thank you, Heather.
All right, I'm going to go to the second interview. It's been previously admitted.
I thought we were done.
Let me ask you this before we start. You stated earlier during your direct testimony that after these crimes happened, you were around family, family was around you, your law partners were around you pretty much every minute after that, correct? Every waking minute. Didn't you say that yesterday?
Yes, they were for a long time.
All right. And this second interview was 3 days later, is that right?
That's correct.
And in no time with any of your close friends and law partners and family, do you confess the truth? Do you?
No, I did not.
We knew that.
Do you say, hey man, I think I messed up. What should I do about this?
No, I didn't.
You're not telling that lie to anyone, are you? Until yesterday.
Excuse me?
You're not telling that lie to anyone until yesterday, are you?
Not telling what lies?
Yeah, which one? So many of them. Gotta be specific.
Saying I tried to tell somebody that I was lying?
All right.
Pam, thank you for the memberships earlier today. I meant to thank you. I didn't have it up on my screen. Thank you for gifting 5 memberships. Heather, thank you as well so much.
So is it? And
All right, I'm going to move this to approximately 24:56.
went to go to the red thing, getting
Correction, I'm at 12:28.
him, he doesn't like to go to doctors, making him go get his blood pressure checked. His feet had swollen up recently.
Wow.
So, you know, that was, it was a big, huge deal.
Okay.
You know, we hung around the house for a little while. I know that Maggie went to the kennels. I don't know exactly where Paul went, but he left the house too.
Okay. How did Maggie get down to the kennels?
I don't know exactly, but on normal occasions she would drive a buggy, drive a four-wheeler, or very common for her to walk.
Okay. How about Paul?
Paul wasn't much of a walker, but he would use all of the others.
Okay.
But I mean, it could be anyway, you know? I don't know exactly. I wish I could help you with that.
So they left and went down to the kennels.
Well, Maggie went to go to the kennels.
Okay. Paul left.
And I'm assuming, you know, Paul left because of, you know, what happened. I mean, I'm assuming Paul went to the kennels.
Okay. And what did you do once Maggie and Paul left?
I stayed in the house.
Okay.
And I was watching TV, looking at my phone, and I actually fell asleep on the couch.
Okay. And what time did you?
You know, I don't know exactly what time I woke up, but when y'all get my phone, you know, I think one of the first things I did when I got up was call Maggie because I was going to my mom's. And I know I texted her because I checked my phone. And what time did we say the text was, Jim? It's like 9:06.
I didn't see it. Yeah, I got it written down for you.
I showed you the other night, didn't I?
Yes, sir. I got this.
So, you know, I texted her, so I called her just before that. And, I mean, she didn't answer at that point. And I left to go to my mom's.
Okay.
Y'all just have to look. I'm not sure if I called Paul.
Well, and that's why we're getting the phone so we can nail down the times and everything.
Pretty much all of that was lies, wasn't it?
The part about me not being at the kennel was a lie.
Well, also not knowing that Paul went down there, not being sure, that was a lie too, wasn't it? I mean, you're putting some detail on this thing, aren't you?
Not knowing when Paul left. Everything about me not going to the kennel was a lie.
And you're able to just do that just so easily and so convincingly and so naturally, don't you?
I mean, that's not for me to judge.
That's true.
It's an odd story.
I'm going to get to where I'm going.
feel right now.
So do y'all have any good clues?
Sorry, I keep doing that.
So we're trying to put a rush on that to get an answer quick, and hoping that's going to tell us something.
By evidence, I mean, is it things you think are going to be helpful?
Well, I mean, like the shot shells out there, the casings, the DNA swabs that we took from the door handle to see if anybody touched the door handles, any other places that we think somebody may have touched while they were out there. We're trying to collect DNA from that and analyze that. Which at the conclusion of this, what I'm going to also ask is that we get a buccal swab, the DNA swab from you.
No problem.
Your DNA is going to be there, but we need to eliminate it once it's developed.
We don't need that unknown when it actually is a family member.
No problem.
I mean, we have talked to close to 100 people trying to track people down, and we're still tracking people down. And that's why, who Paul was with.
I want to tell you one thing while I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Paul was really an incredibly intuitive little dude.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, he was like a little detective. And
Oh, he did say that.
He was like a little detective.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
That is what I said. And he was very intuitive, like I said.
And that was what Marion described as Maggie's term for how he was and keeping tabs on your pill usage. Wasn't that correct?
That was what Maggie said about him.
For some reason, you decided to bring that up in this interview, didn't you?
That was a trait of Paul's personality. I think anybody who knew him would tell you how intuitive he was.
Got it.
Going through hours of videos that we.
All right. For the record, I'm at 4630.
Going uncollected.
well, thank y'all.
Yeah.
Very much.
So.
Mr. Allen.
You don't have to call me Miss. You just call me Alec. Thank you for that courtesy.
When you and Paul got back to the house, Miss Maggie's there, and y'all eat supper, which has been prepared. And you said you laid down and took a little nap, and when you got up, Maggie and Paul was gone, or did they leave when you laid down?
I believe that. I'm not sure.
But they weren't there when you woke up around the 9 o'clock mark or so when you made the call to Maggie to let her know you wanted to.
No, nobody was in that house when I left.
So, and just trying to narrow down, the last time that you saw Paul and Maggie's when y'all were eating supper.
Yes, sir.
Nothing.
Your answer was yes, sir. Is that correct?
That's correct.
He said Paul didn't eat with them? Low. Paw. Oh, shit. Lead. Car is sled interrogation room, Debbie says. That's how sled gets down. Sled, you come out to my car. Be an interview interrogation. Official business.
About to go to the August 2021 interview, but between that June 10th interview and the August interview, you were not working very much. Is that correct? If at all?
No, I definitely wasn't working very much. I think I was working a little bit, but no, not very much at all.
Did you go to Johnny Parker to borrow $250,000 in order to cover the Ferris fees?
I did.
You did?
I did.
Did you tell him what that was for?
No, I did not tell him what that was for.
Did you go to Russell Lafitte at Palmetto State Bank and get $350,000 in order to help cover some of the Ferris fees that you had taken to send to Chris Wilson?
I did.
And did you get those fees before you signed any paperwork or documentation?
I've heard testimony about that in this case, but I can't tell you the specifics of that.
Okay. You don't recall that?
Do I recall when I signed paperwork? No, sir.
You don't recall that you got the money a month before you had to sign any paperwork?
No, sir, I don't recall that.
Call your phone being in the console, which
I'm not disputing that, but I don't recall it.
Did you go to your best friend Chris Wilson and convince him to cover $192,000, the remaining $190,000, in order for him to send that email to your law firm as if those fees had been there all along?
I spoke to Chris Wilson and did not have the full amount of the fees, and I got Chris Wilson to put the remaining fees in his trust account.
And when you did that, you didn't tell him the truth about your life. You just asked him to cover you, correct?
No, I did not tell him.
And he agreed to do that because of his belief of who you really were, or who he thought you were.
He agreed to do that for whatever reasons. I assume that was a big part of it.
And once that $600,000 was transferred, Chris Wilson sent an email to you saying those fees had been there, were in his trust account, correct?
That is correct.
And then you forwarded that email to Lee Cope and Jeannie Seconder, correct?
I know I forwarded it to Jeannie, and I've heard that testimony about forwarding it to Lee Cope, so I believe that's correct.
Okay. Why'd you not get it all from PSB?
Because at that time, there were limitations on how much I could borrow because Mags was passed. And so I was limited.
Okay.
I couldn't get a loan against Moselle and had to get a loan against Palmetto State. Against Edisto.
Going to the third interview.
What's she doing? Oh, shit, quarterback. I don't know. I didn't mean to come out like that.
I'm going to go to 1745.
Cancel.
apparently having some technical difficulties.
She looks good. I didn't mean it like that.
Jury's seen this, so I mean, again, you repeated the same lies over and over again.
I did.
Effortlessly and convincingly.
I don't know about that.
Well, they can see it there.
I agree with that.
Nobody yelled at you.
Nobody yelled at me. Nobody, none of these guys were ever discourteous to me. Like,
Nobody what?
I said none of those guys were ever discourteous to me. You made a comment earlier that David Owens was mean or something about being mean, and he was never mean to me.
All right. But you decided to lie in part because you distrusted David Owen.
I distrusted SLED in general, and I particularly distrusted who I thought was David Owen at the time,
Okay.
who turned out not to be David Owen.
So wait a minute, I want to be clear. You're saying now you thought that this was some David Owen that had something to do with Greg Alexander 10 years ago.
No, sir. And I'm not saying that now. I've said that all along. The person that I saw and watched in Greg Alexander's trial that was clear to me was just, it was terrible what they did to Greg Alexander. And the person at SLED who was responsible for that was a guy named David. All right, and I'm not even getting into his last name. I thought that David Owens that night was that guy. Later, down the road, and it was a while, I checked into that and I found out that I was mistaken, that it was not David Owen.
So when we went back and we spent a lot of time going through that first statement, you're telling me now that you were sitting there thinking that this was a completely different guy the whole time, and that was on your mind during that entire interview.
Yes, at the time, I thought that David Owen, no, I didn't think David Owen was a different person. I thought that David Owens was the person that my dad and I had watched. Just, I mean, my dad and I truly thought evidence was manufactured, and I thought it was David Owen, and I was wrong about that. But that's what I thought that night.
Any other factors or details you want to add about your decision?
I want to answer any question you have, Mr. Waters.
I mean, any more?
Do you have any more questions, sir?
No, I mean any more about your decision to lie. I mean, I just want to, let's get it all out now. Okay.
If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them, sir.
All right, well, I do.
What else you got, Waters? Come on, pick it up.
Tell me about the replacement blackout. You initially told law enforcement that you weren't sure whether or not there was one, correct?
Oh, no, sir, you're absolutely wrong about that.
What did you say then?
Shortly after this, it became being told that Paul's gun had been stolen. And the one you heard talk about being stolen from the thing. And I'm not sure how I learned this, but I learned that somebody, I believe SLED had gone to John Bedingfield, who made those guns, and could only find paperwork for 2 blackouts, one of which they were saying was stolen in 17. And that's what they were telling me. And I was certain and told them that I was certain that there was a third one.
But initially, in June 8th and June 10th, or June 10th, you were saying that you thought that y'all had replaced it, and then you kind of wavered and then eventually said you did replace it, correct?
I don't believe that's correct. No, sir.
You don't believe that's correct?
No, I don't believe that's correct.
Did you say to law enforcement that you thought that the third gun, the replacement blackout, had gone missing in Christmas of 2020?
It did go missing in Christmas of 2020.
So you're telling them that one also had been missing 6 months prior, correct? Answer my question first, and then you can explain. Did you all tell law enforcement that that gun had been missing since Christmas time?
I told law enforcement that when we looked for it at Christmas time, we could not find it.
Okay.
And that was accurate. We looked for it when we were trying to shoot hogs, when we had a group of people out there, and we could not find it.
Okay, but you now know that it was there as late as turkey season.
No, sir. I know that Will Love and Paw Paw had it right before turkey season, like Will Love and testified to.
So it was around, actually.
It was around there at some point in time there, yes, sir.
So you're saying it got stolen a second time, or you just don't know?
No, I'm not.
The 12-year-old stole it a second time?
I never said a 12-year-old stole any gun, Mr.
Sorry, the
Waters.
5'2" people stole it a second time?
I don't know that it was stolen. I just know that when we looked for it at Christmas time, we couldn't find it. And I know this, I know that I hadn't seen that gun in a long time. I've heard the testimony that people who were at my house using guns and hunting with us all the time, Rogan, Buster, they didn't, I can't remember about Buster, but there were several people who didn't even know that gun had been replaced. So that tells me that that gun did not stay where our regular guns were. And I know that I didn't see it there, and that tells me that they didn't see it there.
Of course you didn't see it there, because it's got to be missing, right, Mr. Murdaugh?
Ask that
Yeah,
question
one more
again.
circumstance for your latest story to work is that it's got to be missing as well. It was when you told law enforcement it was missing at Christmas time. Now we've had testimony at this trial, and now you're still claiming that you never saw it. It must have been kept somewhere else. Where else would it have been kept?
It could have been kept anywhere, Mr. Waters, the way Paul did guns, the way guns were handled around there. I was terrible about that.
You're terrible about that.
The 5'2" people, 12-year-olds.
I should have been stricter.
But you know that that third gun was fired right outside the gunroom door in turkey season of 2021, correct?
I know that now, based on what Will Lovin said.
And you know it was also fired across the street at y'all's shooting house around that same time, don't you?
No, sir, I don't know that, but I know that I would assume that it was fired at the shooting range, but I have I don't have any reason to believe it was done in close proximity to that time.
A few months go by, a couple months go by, and you get confronted about your thefts from the law firm, correct?
September of 21.
And unlike June the 7th, when Jeannie confronted you, this time they had unassailable evidence, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, they had...
No wiggling out of this one, correct?
I didn't try to wiggle out of this one.
Well, you've been wiggling before, though, right? You wiggled when you stole your brother's money twice, correct?
Well, I admit almost all of these things, Mr. Waters, but that's one of the things that I take dispute with.
Which one?
That I stole that money that you're referring to.
You're going to dispute that? Let's hear about that then. Tell me why you dispute cashing that check twice.
I don't dispute cashing that check twice.
But you're going to tell this jury that you accidentally didn't realize that you were supposed to be receiving some $125,000 check or $120 however $1,000 check 2 times. How many $120,000 checks do you receive?
I got that check, and this is several months after. I mean, you can look at my finances, and you can see how I was doing. I didn't balance a checkbook, but the fact of the matter is, when I got that check, I asked about it, and I was told mistakenly that it was for me, that I had I had participated in that year-end thing, which I did sometimes, not often, but sometimes. Apparently, a new check got cashed. I cashed that check. Then a year later,
Yeah, where did you keep that one for a year?
I don't know where it was. It was obviously in my desk. But Mr. Waters.
So you found it in your desk?
No, I didn't find it.
Well, you said it was obviously in your desk. So you remember that? You remember finding it in your desk?
No, I remember when we.
Did you go to finance and say, I just found this year-old check? Is this right?
No.
No, you took it to the bank, didn't you?
No, sir. I didn't.
You gotta let him answer.
Not allowing Mr. Murdaugh to answer the question.
So when this came up, when this came up, that check got cashed. There's no way that I can have a check in our law firm with the way accounting is, and that I can cash a check twice and think that that's impossible. So to cash a check that's already been checked, it's going to throw, there's no question it's going to throw that off. What happened is we used to get a rent check, we get little checks, I'd have checks, and they'd pile up, the small checks. That check got mixed in, and it got sent to the bank, and it got deposited.
Keep going.
And that was a year after.
Okay.
But I do dispute that I stole that money. That money.
All right. Well, I mean, you brought it up. So any of the other money you dispute stealing?
No, sir, you brought it up. I was just telling you that was the one I disputed.
Okay. All right. And you heard Ronnie Crosby and Mark Ball testify about that, correct?
I heard Ronnie and Mark testify about what they thought about it. Yes, sir.
All right. You testified yesterday about the side of the road?
Yeah, yes, sir.
And then you heard the testimony during the state's direct case about what you said on the 911 call? You heard that, didn't you?
I did hear that.
You heard the 911 call where you said you'd been attacked by an unknown assailant and described him?
I did.
And you saw the video from the ambulance where you said you'd been attacked by an unknown assailant and described him?
I did.
And you heard the testimony from Ryan Kelly where you again went into detail and described this attack from an unknown assailant?
I did.
And you heard the testimony about your interview on September 6th with law enforcement, in which you went into great detail and again described this unknown assailant?
I did.
And you heard the testimony, and in fact the image was put in, about how you sat down with a SLED sketch artist and spent a period of time with her going forward and creating an image of the supposed assailant.
I did sit down with I was in the hospital, and they came in, sat down with me, asked me a bunch of questions. I answered their questions, and
yes, you did. You sat there.
It came up with a composite. Yes, sir.
Sat there and answered their questions just as effortlessly and convincingly as you've been trying to do for the past 2 days. Isn't that correct?
No, sir. That's not true. In that hospital, I couldn't sit still. I was standing up. I was walking around. I was using the bathroom with the lady sitting right there. I was 2 days into not taking, 3 days into not taking pills like I had been. So no, it wasn't effortlessly. But I mean, I told him what I told him. I don't dispute that I lied.
It was all lies, though, is the point, correct?
It was.
I mean, you're saying withdrawals, but you still were able to pull off lies in great detail. Correct?
I lied to them.
And the lie that you told of an unknown assailant was to try to make people think that the quote real bad guys were back again to finish the job. Isn't that true?
No, sir, that's not true.
That's not the effect that you intended that story to have? Did it have that effect on people that you knew? Isn't that the exact effect that it had?
I don't think there's many people that believe that. No, sir. I know the people that were, the people that were closest to me didn't believe that.
You heard the testimony.
So, no,
When
sir.
accountability is at your door, Mr. Murdaugh, bad things happen. Isn't that true?
When accountability is
After
at my
your life-
doorstep,
Go ahead.
bad things happen. What do you mean by bad things?
You know what I mean.
June 7th happened. September 4th happened.
I don't believe that June the 7th happened because accountability issues were at my doorstep. Now, I do believe in September that I tried to get a man to help me kill myself because
say his name.
Issues were at my doorstep.
Eddie.
Every time, or I'm sorry, for the first time in your life of privilege and prominence and wealth, when you were facing accountability, each time suddenly you became a victim and everyone ran to your aid. Isn't that true?
I disagree with that, but
Munchausen shit, yeah.
I mean, what you're
shame for you is an extraordinary provocation. Isn't that true, Mr. Murdaugh?
Hang on, let me just finish this. You seem to be implying 2 dates, June the 7th and September, and talking about accountability issues. And I mean, to me, those two things are totally different. There were no accountability issues on my doorstep on June the 7th.
That's what you say.
And in September,
not what other people say.
I was trying to, well, no, I mean, been a lot of people, well, in September, that wasn't designed to gain me sympathy. That was designed for me not to be here because I didn't want my son to have to deal with the wake of the things that I had done.
But that's not the story you told. The story that came out of your mouth right away was the story of you getting attacked by some unknown assailant while you were trying to change a tire and run flats. Well, that's the story that you told.
That is the story I told, but that's because
insurance.
The man who shot me did not shoot me that day as I intended. And I had to have a story as to how I got shot, so I lied.
So you lied. And you're saying that people in your family and your friends didn't instantly believe that whoever these 12-year-old marauders were back to finish the job.
You keep using
and it happened just 2 hours after you've been confronted by Chris Wilson.
I think probably some people may have thought that when it first happened, but I think like Randy, Ronnie, Mark, those guys, I think they knew very quickly that this was not, I think they knew this was something that I'd done.
Oh my gosh, dude. Yo. It's gotta be so hard to keep it straight. I'd be grinning. If I was in the court, sitting on the bench, I'd be like,
shame for you, I asked this before, but shame for you is an extraordinary provocation, isn't it, Mr. Murdaugh?
Shame for me is an extraordinary provocation. I don't like to be shamed.
The prospect of humiliating the legacy is an extraordinary provocation to you, isn't it, Mr. Murdaugh?
What do you mean by an extraordinary provocation?
It affects you deeply. It's your biggest concern, is it not?
No, that's not my biggest concern.
You're a middle-aged man like me?
I'm 54 years old. I'm not sure. You look like you're in better shape than me, so I don't know.
I was actually a couple of years behind you in law school, but we never knew each other, did we?
I never knew you, no, sir.
Never heard of you. Oh, shit.
Had a very successful career up until this point. Simple question.
And the answer to that is no, Mr. Waters. I was an addict for more than 20 years.
All right, so making millions of dollars over a decade is not having a successful career? Is that what you're going to tell the jury?
No, that's not a successful career. When you
Okay, well, let me put it like this.
Hang on. Let me just.
All right, go ahead.
Uh-oh. Oh, wow.
You know, it may have been what you perceive as a successful career, but, you know, I was the one who was fighting that. You don't have a very high self-esteem when you're an addict. So I don't deem myself a success.
All right. Would you agree that at least outwardly you were perceived as successful?
I made a bunch of money, if that's what you're wanting to get at.
No, I'm actually asking about the perception. You were perceived as a prominent,
I tried to be.
powerful lawyer.
How I was perceived,
You were president of the trial lawyers.
I sure tried to be.
Nobody
Lived
really
a life of possessing authority.
Possessing authority?
Yeah, we saw the badges. You just admitted of your prominence in the legal community.
I don't think that I lived a life of possessing authority. I never saw myself as that way.
You don't think you lived a life of privilege?
I think I was very privileged.
And as we move to June of 2021, you were suffering from a drug addiction.
Absolutely.
Your father was terminally ill.
When?
As we move to June of 2021.
No, sir.
He was very ill.
He was very ill.
And you were coming to a point of financial crisis.
I was having financial issues like I'd had many times in the past.
Mr. Murdaugh, are you a family annihilator?
A family annihilator? You mean like, did I shoot my wife and my son?
Yes.
No. I would never hurt Maggie Murdaugh. I would never hurt Paul Murdaugh under any circumstances.
Say that.
Kelly. Sandy. We'll read that when we get a break. Thank you, though. Thank you so much.
Excuse me?
You say that, but you lied to Maggie, didn't you?
I did lie to Maggie.
You lied to Paul?
Sometimes.
You lied to your father?
I'm sure I did at some point.
Did you tell him all the stuff you'd been up to over the years before he died?
No, I didn't tell him.
Did you lie to your brothers?
About financial things?
Yes.
I would have lied to Randy at some point, I'm sure.
Did you lie to him about the last time you saw your wife and son alive?
I did.
Did you lie to their wives?
I'm sure I did.
Did you lie to Marion Proctor?
Yes.
Did you lie to Bart Proctor?
Yes.
Did you lie to the Brandstetters?
Yes.
Did you lie to your best friend, Chris Wilson?
Probably.
Did you lie to your other friend, Barrett Bulware, when you took his money?
No, sir.
No.
Not. I didn't lie like I told you. I didn't lie directly to him. I lied to him by omission, like we talked about. I mean, I didn't talk to him. I didn't see him at that time.
Did you lie to your law partners?
I did.
Did you lie to them about the kennels?
Some of them.
Did you lie to Mark Ball?
Yeah, based on what Mark said, I believe I did.
Did you lie to Ronnie Crosby?
According to what he said, I believe I did.
Did you lie to Johnny Parker?
I don't believe I ever discussed that with Johnny.
Did you lie to him about the finances when you borrowed that money in July of 2021?
I don't know if I lied to him about. I don't think Johnny asked me. I don't think I had to lie to Johnny about that, so I don't know.
Did you lie? Well, you certainly didn't disclose to him the truth when you borrowed that $250,000, did you?
I did not tell him what I was going to use it for.
I mean, didn't we say before that not telling the whole truth is the same as telling a lie?
Sure it is.
You don't think that's a lie, though?
I'm just saying, Mr. Waters, I'm not taking issue with that, but I don't even know that Johnny and I mean, Johnny had loaned me money numerous times. It wasn't any long sit-down discussion where Johnny wanted to know exactly what I was doing with it. That conversation would have been, I needed it. Johnny was always willing to help me, and that would have been the conversation. So on that specific event, did I lie to him? I don't know.
Yeah, he ended up being out $477,000, didn't he?
He ended up being out a lot of money.
And thank you for your qualifications as to that. Did you lie to Lee Cope?
I don't know. I don't know if Lee Cope was around when I said that or not.
Did you lie to Danny Henderson?
I did lie to Danny.
Did you lie to Jeannie Seckinger?
About finances, yes, I did.
You didn't ever talk to her about the kennels?
No, I wouldn't think so.
Did you lie to Annette Griswold?
I did.
Did you lie to Christy Gerald, your other secretary or paralegal?
I don't believe she and I discussed. I would have at some point, I'm sure.
Did you lie to Michael Gunn?
I'm sure I did at some point, but I mean, Michael wasn't involved in any of this, so I don't know that any of this ever came up with Michael.
Did you lie to your clients? Did you lie to Pamela Pinckney?
I did.
Natasha Thomas?
I don't know that I dealt with Natasha, but I certainly lied about that.
Hakeem Pinckney?
Again, I don't know that I talked to Hakeem, but I certainly lied about that.
Arthur Badger?
I did.
The Plyler girls?
I'm not sure that I talked specifically to them, but I lied about that.
Dion Martin?
I lied to Dion.
Johnny Bush?
Yes.
Manuel Cristiani?
I didn't have any conversations with him, but I certainly lied about it.
Jamie and Risher?
Yes.
Randy Drawdy?
Yes.
Jordan Jinks?
Yes.
Mary Duncan?
Yes.
Adriana Hay?
Yes.
Angel Gary?
Yes.
Christopher Anderson?
Yes.
Elise Mallory?
Yes.
Thomas Moore?
No.
You never lied to him? You just took his money. You never had to actually lie to his face, is what you're saying?
He and I never had a conversation, but I did take that. I did take that money.
Did you lie to Tony Satterfield just a couple of months before June 7th? We saw the text. You want me to get it out?
Just remind me. There's been a lot. Just remind me what it was.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as 463.
And I don't remember the exact date. So
that was in April of 2021. Is that right? Where you text him and tell him how hard you're working on the case, when in fact you had stolen millions of dollars from him? Tony Satterfield, who got up on the stand and told the jury about that?
I texted him on April 12th, so 5 weeks before June 7th.
Told him everything was okay. You're working hard, right? It's a complex case.
Yeah, I told him I was working on the case.
He was the son of your longtime housekeeper, Gloria.
I'm sorry?
He was the son of your longtime housekeeper, Gloria, who had served your family for many years.
That's correct.
And you stole millions from those boys.
I stole those funds.
And he and his family had started asking questions as we moved to June 7th. Didn't that happen?
No, I mean, there wasn't any rise in them asking questions. No, sir. I mean, he periodically checked in and asked me questions, but, you know, it had come out long before this, I believe, in the Island packet, that there had been a settlement of $500,000. But, I mean, that had been months and months, if I'm not mistaken. And so I didn't notice any uptick in Tony asking questions, and I don't believe that there was any uptick in Tony asking questions before June the 7th.
So you just gratuitously out of the blue decided to lie to him and send that text? Or were there things going on externally that caused you to need to head him off at the pass before further questions started to be asked about money you couldn't pay back at that point in time?
Nah, I don't think there was anything. I mean, on April 21st, I don't know what external factors you're talking about.
Do you want to explain that one anymore?
Explain what?
Whatever you want.
I just want to answer your questions, Mr. Waters.
Lied to everyone about the side of the road, that people that came to stop to help, and the ambulance folks, and the 911, and Ryan Kelly, and the composite sketch artist, and all of them, correct?
I lied to a lot of people about that.
You know why people lie, Mr. Murdaugh? Because they know they've done something wrong.
For the most time, I do.
And you've been able to lie quickly and easily and convincingly if you think it'll save your skin for well over a decade. Isn't that true?
I have lied well over a decade.
And you want this jury to believe a story manufactured to fit the evidence that you brought forth just yesterday after hearing this trial's worth of testimony.
No, sir, that's not correct.
Mr. Murdaugh, we went through this for a while, but you remember at the beginning of your testimony, I asked you whether or not you agreed that trying to explain your presence on the kennel video was the most important part of your testimony before this jury. You remember that? And you said, oh, not the most important. And I said, was it at least important? Do you recall that from yesterday?
Yeah, I recall you asking those questions, yes, sir.
And you agree it's important, don't you?
I agree that is an important component. But I think there's a lot of important components.
And you? Testified yesterday and during cross yesterday and cross today. It's kind of evolved on the fact of the factors that led you to decide to lie at some point during that interview with David Owen, correct?
I disagree with that. I don't think those factors have evolved. I mean, you've asked some more specific questions, but those factors are still the same factors. You may have asked questions and gained a little more detail, but those factors haven't changed.
But it was the dope paranoia. It was the fact that the deputy took your GSR. It was the fact that your law partners and Greg Alexander and the sheriff were telling you needed to have a lawyer before you talked to police. It was the factor that you got in the car with Dave Owen and thought he was somebody else from some case 10 years ago, correct?
That believing David Owens was the person involved in the case that I talked about was one of the factors that caused me to distrust SLED.
All right. And then also you said that they started
general.
asking you about, in that first interview, about your relationship with Maggie and Paula. And that's one thing you mentioned as well, correct?
And that was certainly something that contributed to me having paranoid thinking.
I mean, he's been going on the lie stuff for a while. I mean, we've known for a very long time this guy. Probably weeks ago, you know. Pretty much lied to everybody. Back with the assist. Vicky K, thank you so much again for the membership gifts. There, everybody's getting one. Oprah, you get one. You get one. You get one. I'm gonna turn on the AC. A little cold here. What's up? What's up? I know, right? SF says that this isn't a bombshell moment he's leading into, and this prosecutor's blowing the case. Bruh. I'll be right back. Turn on. Okay, we're back. Let's say turn off.
Are we good?
Oh.
For the record, I'm playing the Daniel Green body cam video, 2026.
They are dead, aren't they?
Yes, sir. That's what it looks like.
Where are you now? All right. Yeah, the police are here now. The police are here now. That's my brother.
Okay. When was the last time you were here with them? Or talked to them or anything like that?
It was earlier tonight. I don't know the exact time, but
okay.
I left. I was probably gone an hour and a half from my mom's, and I saw them about 45 minutes before that.
Hour and a half.
That was Sergeant Green, correct?
Yeah, that was Sergeant Green.
And at that point in time, SLED was not there. No one had gotten GSR from you. Your law partners or Sheriff Hill were not there.
That's correct.
No one had asked you about your relationships. David Owen was not there.
That's correct.
But you still told the same lie. And all those reasons that you just gave this jury about the most important part of your testimony was a lie too. Isn't that true, Mr. Murdaugh?
I disagree with that.
Nothing further.
I mean, I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a break now. Please do not discuss the case.
I think I heard him say he was at his mom's for an hour and a half, right? I mean, that's another different. I mean, I don't know. You could argue maybe in the moment he wasn't sure about the timing, but I don't know. Was that a boom or a poof? Like, psst. Was it a boom or was it psst? What do you guys think? Rest my case.
90 minutes to his parents' house and saw them 45 minutes before that. And that, according to the GPS information that has been entered into evidence, would not exactly be true. Ooh. According to that GPS information, he didn't leave his home until shortly after 9 o'clock that night and returned around 10. But he also admitted to earlier being at the dog kennels at about 8:45 that night. So again, the prosecution trying to show here that Alec Murdaugh has been lying easily and quickly, as they put it, to save his own skin for over a decade. Asked point blank again about killing his wife and son today, he said no, never hurt them under any circumstances. And that's when Creighton Waters brought up lying. He started talking about family and friends of Alex Murdaugh that he had lied to, and he repeatedly said all over and over and over, yes, 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 he had lied to those family and friends for quite some time. On the witness stand as well, a lot of testimony today about his drug addiction, oxycodone, Oxycontin, and the prosecution trying to lay out a case here, basically saying that he was stealing larger amounts of money, especially following that boating accident in 2019, something Murdaugh answered in court. So
okay, so the hour and a half, I think that's something different. I don't know if I've heard that before. So and I wonder if he like this guy was saying, and Waters was saying, he's just adjusting and lying on the spot when he needs to. Because I don't know, the hour and a half at Mama's house, but now at the trial, all this information's out. The timelines are different. So I guess that was just, I don't know. Let's see here. Catherine, thank you for becoming a supporter. Infamous Truth Teller, thank you for becoming a member. See you too. So happy for you. And oh yeah, I got this earlier. And baby girl, thank you. Bonnie, thank you for the 5. Says Mel, I've been sick over a week. Sore throat, etc. Thank you for streaming the trial and keeping me company. Thank you guys for keeping me company. I'm a little sick too. Something light. I don't know what it is. And I called my mother when I was on a little break. She said she got a bunch of COVID tests. So I might tell her to leave me something outside to go test and see. I mean, I don't feel that bad, but I guess I can test myself to see if I have something. I haven't been around people either, but besides Maddie. But I guess I should go get tested. Sean H, thank you for the super chat. Deborah, thank you for the super chat. After a 50-year dynasty within law, why haven't they found the real killer? Manhunt, releasing crime scene within 24 hours? Come on, guilty as F. Charms, thank you for the super chat. Says he's reaching, Your Honor. Polani, thank you for the super chat. Says he never said it should have been me that died. Facts. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Yeah, I haven't heard him say that, but that's not enough to say guilty.
People he has lied to, including law enforcement, including friends, family.
Mama, papa, brother, sister, father, brother, Uncle Rere, Titi, Roro, everybody. Every motherfucker lied to everybody. I mean, but it's in human nature. People lie, right? Everybody lies, I guess. But his type of lie, are there worse lies? Worse than others? Maybe. I mean, he's just a habitual liar, because I've known people that are just like habitually lie. And you got to be kind of like an empty person inside to do the shit that this guy's been doing. Skeezing victims and family and deceased people and people that have been there their entire lives, skeezing and scamming and stealing all kinds of shit. Skeezer. But I think a lot of these people too were cool with it. I think a lot of these people probably knew this shit. These bankers and law enforcement, allegedly, I don't know. And now he's down the drains, and now they got to account for this shit. Well, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say the the law office knew. It's probably not true. I don't know. Or the bankers, I don't know. Boy, allegedly cashing double checks, recashing double check. Checks already cashed, cashing it again. The heck? Where did they do that at? I'm just gonna recash this check again, twice, 3 times. Thank you. El Bonbon, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. Infamous truth teller, thank you for the 2-month membership. He only gets emotional when he's telling a story. LD Bonbon, thank you again for the super chat. Appreciate that. And Infamous truth teller, thank you for the super chat. Says the only time he bawled like a baby is when he has a diversion narrative to tell, and then he dries up and starts talking like he don't got no sense. LD Bomb, thank you again for the super chat. Truth seeker, a thief and liar, but don't think he killed his family. Truth seeker again, thank you for the super chat. Says he knew he would be accused, so he lied. Oh, I talked about that yesterday too. That could be a possible thing you could throw in there. Somebody lying, knowing that they're going to be accused, afraid of getting caught. Doodle Fart, thank you for the super chat. Darren, thanks for the super chat. Says AM did not see the gun for months, but the 5'2" people walk on the property and find the gun in minutes? Are you kidding me? And kills his wife and son? Yeah, okay. That's a good point. That's another good point. That is a good point. AM did not see the gun for months, but the 5'2" people walk on the property and find the gun in minutes. Or maybe the 5'2" people had stolen the gun and waited for months to use the gun to kill a wife and son. Jet Judson, thank you for becoming a member. Callie, Sandy, thanks for the super chat. Amazing, says Netflix 3 videos. A&M Mag, horrid parenting, AM sled manipulation in hospital accidents, Buster favored, Paul outcast. That's what I've heard. I haven't watched it yet. I want to watch just because I want to see what happened with Paul. They're saying all kinds of shit about Paul in this Netflix documentary. I heard his girlfriend was like saying all kinds of shit too. Outcast and out of control. Town terrified of family. That's what I've heard. Girlfriends, friends knew of lies, corruption to prove. AM Sled ran the town. Sled get down. Legacy and AM over town in ruins. Sled. The boys turn up, belly up. Sled. Them boys been assisting with all this kind of shit. Now shit's turned upside down. Now they got to point the finger. Sled. M. Tice, thank you for the super chat. Says Liegate. Rebel Eric, you think it's possible someone did because all the money he stole from people and maybe he knows who it is? Possible. I mean, at this point, I mean, like you should tell, I would think, if that's the case. I feel like Cousin Eddie got some more knowledge too. Cousin Eddie knows too. And they're taking this shit to the grave. Cousin Eddie. Alana120, thank you so much. Says, you are awesome, Mel. Mel always keeping us entertained and smiling. You're the best mods in chat family. Love you all. Feel better and good luck on your move. Thank you. Hugs for Sweet Maddie. Thank you so much, Alana. Appreciate the super chat, the 10. I mean, the feels that I'm getting online, some people are saying they're just tired of this. They say Waters took an L today. That's what they're saying. I mean, some people online. In the world of Twitter, the consensus with the Twitter people. Murdaugh didn't say in that portion of the video that he hadn't gone down to the kennels, I should note, but he did say he saw Maggie and Paul about 45 minutes before leaving to see his mom. We now know it was more like 15 minutes or so. All right, give me 1 second. I just got to use the restroom. Let me just do this real quick. I'll play this for a second.
Back to finish the job. This would be in reference to the 2019 boating accident. Murdaugh was asked about that in court today. He basically said whoever killed Paul had anger in their heart. And again, this was in reference to the boating accident of 2019, which Mallory Beach was killed. So again, he was trying to tie the two together. Basically, were the bad guys back to finish the job, the roadside shooting, Labor Day of 2021. The biggest thing that stands out with this trial so far has been that late tape, the dog kennel tape, in which Alec Murdaugh admits to being there now, when at first he said he wasn't there. He was asked about the dog kennel video. Law partners advising him not to talk to law enforcement without some sort of legal representation. Here was part of that exchange in court today.
On June 8th, in the early morning hours, you testified to this jury that you were listening to them, but you never told them the kennel story either, and they heard it for the first time yesterday as well. Isn't that correct?
Yes, that's the first time they heard it.
First time that Ronnie Crosby ever heard that would have been yesterday?
If he was listening, that would have been the first time he heard
First
it.
time Johnny Parker ever heard that was yesterday?
Yes.
First.
And again, the dog kennel video, a big part of all of this. You have to remember Murdaugh basically telling investigators he wasn't down at the dog kennels, but then when this tape surfaced, admitting that that's his voice on the tape, that would have been about 8:45 the evening, moments before the shooting deaths of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh. Earlier in the day, there was testimony that the dogs didn't sense anybody that they didn't know at the dog kennels. This might go back to basically what Murdaugh and the defense are implying, that Murdaugh was indeed there. He lied about being there because he panicked, he was paranoid. He was indeed there with Maggie and Paul at 8:45, but left and went to the house, and that somebody was perhaps waiting in the wings to come out and commit the murders. Again, the dogs didn't sense anybody they didn't know. That was stated in court earlier today. There's also the instance where Maggie Murdaugh made a disturbing discovery about pills when it concerned her husband, Alec Murdaugh, and that was addressed in court today as well.
I had left pills in the computer bag and sitting out there bored. I guess she started looking at my computer and found them in the computer bag. So she found those pills.
All right. And so she obviously told Paul, and Paul texted you, correct? About finding those pills.
That's correct.
In May of 2021.
That's correct.
Now, the state believes, when it comes to Alec Murdaugh's alibi, they believe that Murdaugh made a series of phone calls after the murders in order to manufacture some sort of alibi here. There was no phone activity with Alec Murdaugh's phone from about 8:08 on the evening of the murders until that phone was active again at about 9:02 in the evening. And that is when the state alleges he started making some phone calls, trying to establish some sort of alibi following the shooting deaths of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh. He also says that he is, other than lying about being at the kennel, he says he has been cooperating with the investigation. Again, he admits to stealing, he admits to lying, but he says he is not the shooter when it comes to Maggie and Paul Murdaugh. And again, Alec Murdaugh, going back to that fatal boating accident of 2019, then again, that was discussed in court today. There was an exchange back and forth with the prosecutor about Murdaugh's belief that perhaps this was the reason why the shooting deaths happened in the first place. Take a listen.
I never, ever, ever, under any point in time, believed that those kids that were riding in that boat, or their parents, or their families. I didn't believe that any of the families, the people that were involved in the boat wreck, had anything to do with hurting Maggie.
Man, so what y'all thinking about today? I gotta get I'm gonna set up the stream for Monday, right? Monday we'll be back. Let's set it up for Monday too, so when we're done here today. Let me get this here. Sheila, now this gray-haired man needs a haircut. Infamous truth teller, thank you for the super chat. 1, went home to go lay down, 20 minutes. 2, then TV was on, short nap. 3, he just went lay down for like 7-8 minutes. He doesn't know he fell asleep. I don't believe that. That whole story is cockamamie. I don't know what to the extent this guy's full involvement is, and like how he, like if he killed him or he had somebody, like how without blood or like shirt, or where somebody in the short amount of time. But I don't think there's that many fucking coincidences all in once. But I I still have, I don't know that he's the one that pulled the trigger. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, there's a lot of mixed feelings on this. He was sleepwalking. Tomorrow? No, tomorrow's Saturday. Somebody said no trial tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday. No trial tomorrow. But she's like, oh shit, it's Saturday. What? It's Saturday tomorrow. The trial will be back Monday. Okay, and the stream for earlier today is fixed now. They fixed it, guys. So if you missed part of the morning stream, it's fixed now. That's why I ended the live stream. Because if I would have waited till 8 hours today, that shit wouldn't be fixed till like tomorrow, probably. Or even longer. So the earlier stream is fixed. I'll set up the stream for Monday as well ahead of time. Plans for this weekend. So I'm going to mostly just try to pack. I think I want to mostly pack, get things organized, clean. I'll come on maybe to do a short video, or if there's like a chase or something, or some sort of breaking news, I will hop on. But the focus is going to be just kind of getting things together, cleaning a little bit, and just packing a majority of the stuff, and just leaving some light stuff for the week. So, let me listen to this while I set up the...
Back on the stand when we resume in just a few minutes or not.
Murder, she wrote.
That's correct, JR. And as we talk about his testimony that he gave over the last couple of days, I thought it was important to talk about the 911 call. Prosecutors made it a point to play parts of that 911 call, or at least a recorded interview afterwards that and they referenced the 911 call to talk about some of the comments that he made in recorded interviews with law enforcement. So in addition to his clothes not having any blood on them, he said in those comments, or at least seemed to say, that he touched their bodies before he called 911. So he attempted to check on his loved ones, check their pulse, make sure, or at least see if they were okay before he called 911. Now that became an issue in court because Murdaugh said that he did not say that he actually said that he touched their bodies after he called 911. And the reason that is an important point is because prosecutors have been talking about this timeline, right? The detailed timeline we've been telling you guys about. So they say that Murdaugh called 911 within 20 seconds of his car actually arriving to that area of the kennels where those shootings took place. So the question is, how can you check someone's body and find out that they're dead all within 20 seconds? Murdaugh, of course, saying there on the stand today that he checked their bodies before. Actually, he said he checked their bodies while speaking with 911. Forgive me. So he said that he checked their bodies while speaking with 911. And of course, prosecutors, you mentioned this, they're talking about, or at least trying to paint him as someone who lied.
You may bring the jury.
27th is Monday. I probably should rest. I should try to. No, I'm not going to rest, but I hope I'm better by Monday too. I got no time to be sick, man. I got time for that. So we're getting close to the end. To the end. Oh.
So.
So this is their chance to have Alec and clean it up, redirect. Oh. Alec's last chance to fight back.
Jury is present. All right, thank you. Redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Murdaugh, we spent a long time yesterday and a fair amount of time today talking about financial misdeeds.
Yes, sir.
Have you been criminally charged for those financial crimes?
I have been.
You have pending charges against.
I do.
You were asked specifically about $792,000 in Ferris fees that you diverted from the law firm. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
And I think you were asked about an accounting or where that money went, and it went out pretty quickly, roughly.
Yes, sir.
And you recall testimony that over $500,000 went to Curtis Eddie Smith?
I do.
And what would that have been for?
That would have all been for pills?
For opioids?
Yes, sir. Specifically, all I was taking at that time was oxycodone and OxyContin.
And you were an addict, were you not?
I am an addict.
You are an addict. And did you repeatedly lie to those you love to cover up your addiction?
I did.
And were you concerned that you would be exposed if you didn't continue to lie about your conduct?
I did.
There's some specific things you were asked about, which I'd like to go over. One thing you had referred to a text message that you'd seen later on between Maggie and Blanca. Do you recall that?
I do.
And it's in the evidence as Defendant's Exhibit 54. And Doug, if you could pull that up, please, sir. And if you could highlight the Blanca text. Is this the text message you're referring to?
It is.
And I'll just read it. It says, T.Y., that's thank you. It says, T.Y., I'm waiting at Dr. Alex wants me to come home. I had to leave door open at Edisto, but trust Mexicans to shut and lock for me. His dad is back in the hospital. The last doctor claims not cancer, it pneumonia. And then she has some faces. Alex is about to die. Hope he doesn't go down there to sleep. Alex needs to take care of himself as well. Is that the text message you're referring to?
Yes, sir.
And did Blanca share this message with you after Maggie was murdered?
Blanca ultimately she shared that with me. She first told me that, Maggie was worried about me, how much she loved me, and that she was worried about me, and I texted her.
Okay. Now you were asked, you can take it down, Doug. You were asked questions about conversations around the dinner table on the 7th about, well, didn't eat at the table, but around while you were eating dinner about Paul's health. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Alec, I'm going to show you two exhibits, Defendants 179 and 180. And
skip the racist part.
Can identify these two.
Brandy.
I can.
And what are they?
It's text from let's see, it's a text from Paw to me on May the 30th.
And then and what's 180? Exhibit 180 behind it.
That's a picture of Paw's feet.
Your Honor, would move Defendants Exhibits 179, 180 into evidence at this time without objection, I believe.
Without objection, Your Honor.
Submitted.
Pull up. Do you have 179? Or we've got to put it. You can let me put it on the Elmo, please.
Uh-oh.
Alex, do these, this text message refer to Paul's feet swelling?
They do.
So if you'll do, you can pull it up.
Ooh, okay.
Like, go up a little more so we can read it. And it says, from Paul, and that phone number, is that your phone number?
That is. It's my phone number, 1227. My feet swole up. It has something to do with my blood pressure. Get me an appointment as soon as it's convenient.
And what's the date of this?
May the 30th.
2021, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And if, Doug, if you'll show the picture, I believe this is a blow up of the picture that's in this Exhibit 180. Can you pull out? Is that a picture
Damn, this one.
that Paul had sent you of his feet swelling up?
It is.
Is this what y'all discussed, you know, when you're eating dinner?
Yes.
Okay.
Along with many other times.
You'd also, you were asked questions.
Oh, they said drinking too much will cause that too? Could have psoriasis.
Your dad's condition and whether he was terminal or not. Do you remember that?
I do remember questions about him.
Okay, and gosh, Doug, I think it's the extended timeline. Is it states 530? Is that the right number?
States 520, Counsel.
States 520. If you'll pull it up, please. It's already in evidence. And if you'll go to page 14.
They're cracking up back there.
And if you'll blow up the entry at 142.54 at the bottom of the page. Alex, is this a text that you and we'll, do you recall this is the text that you and other family members received about your father's condition?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it says, Daddy was just seen by the pulmonologist in Savannah. His opinion is dramatically different from the other doctors. He thinks Daddy has pneumonia and needs to be hospitalized to be treated for pneumonia. He thinks there could be an obstruction, but is more confident that it is all or mostly pneumonia. Daddy is being admitted to Candler St. Joseph Hospital now. He will have a study done to see whether or not there is an obstruction, and his treatment will be tailored accordingly. Right now, his pulmonologist does not. Go to the next page. Does not believe that he'll be getting radiation treatment, and in fact, the pulmonologist says that the palliative radiation treatment to try to open the airway is a Hail Mary. In his opinion, would most likely not work. Then it goes on to say if he is right, and this is pneumonia, is much more treatable and can certainly give the immunotherapy a chance to work. Is that what you're referring to?
That's the text I was talking about that came when talking to Jeannie Seckinger.
Okay. And and this wasn't a terminal diagnosis on the 7th, was it?
Not on the 7th. That was actually a little bit of positive news.
Okay.
That was short-lived, but it was positive at the time.
You can take that down for now, Doug. But stay on that exhibit. Al, you were asking, if you'll go to page 46, please, the same exhibit, 520. Page 46. And if you'll highlight and blow out the 90218 Alec Murdaugh's iPhone shows Now, Alec, do you remember being asked about these steps, 283 steps traveled during this period of time?
I do.
And I think you testified your belief was you're just getting ready to leave to go to your mom's house. Is that right?
That's correct. I mean, that would have been the time I was right before I left to go there.
And you were, looks like you had made some phone calls during this period of time, correct?
Yes, the record show.
Alec, did you have Maggie's phone with you at any time between 9:02 and 9:06?
I didn't have Maggie's phone with me any time that night.
And Doug, if you'll go to page 45, please. If you go to the entry at 8:53:15 to 8:55:32. What am I missing? Can you go, you're missing it. Go up one more entry, please. The one that records steps, please. And then take it all the way to the bottom, Doug. Thank you. This is in evidence. And this is Agent Rudowski's timeline. It says Maggie Murdaugh's phone, iPhone shows 59 steps traveled between 8:53:15 and 8:55:32. Were you walking with Maggie Murdaugh's phone during that period of time?
I wasn't walking with Maggie's phone any time that night.
And if you'll look at Agent Rudowski's entries, is there entry of her phone showing steps during any time between 9:02 and 9:06? Do you see any on this page from 8:53 to 8:55?
No, sir.
If you'll turn to the next page, page 46. Going down to your steps, is there any recording of phone steps, phone recording steps, according to the data we now have for Maggie's phone at any point in time up to 9:02?
No, sir.
And had you repeatedly asked SLED to get the data from the OnStar, from the cell phones, to evaluate whether your phone and Maggie's phone were ever moving at the same time? You made that multiple requests.
I repeatedly asked David Owens about that information.
And when you asked that question, were you aware that Maggie's phone had been located, down the road, half a mile or more? Is that right?
Yeah, I knew where her phone had been located.
And why was it important to you to get that information?
Because I knew that whoever had done this to them had Maggie's phone. And I knew that my phone and Maggie's phone and my car were never together. At any point in time.
Sure. Now, you have given inaccurate times in many statements to law enforcement in this case, have you not?
I did.
And we reviewed some of those in your direct examination. One was Paul getting to Moselle around 5 p.m. Do you remember that?
I do.
Were you lying to Agent Owens or anybody when you said Paul got there at 5 p.m.?
No, I wasn't lying to him. I mean, I thought that at the time.
And when you,
Most of the times or a lot of the times when I gave times, I qualified them and say, but, you can look at this. I pointed them to my office, to the call log, to the key card like we talked about, or my phone, or my own star.
and when you told the agents that you thought you got to the office 8:30, 9 o'clock on that morning of June 7th, well, you were wrong, right?
I was wrong.
Were you lying?
No, I wasn't lying.
And when Deputy Green drove up and you had the first encounter with him, I believe you told him that you had been gone to your mom's house for an hour and a half. Is that right? We just heard it.
The last one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, hour and a half. I think that is what I told him.
Hour and a half. And that the last time you saw Maggie and Paul was 45 minutes before that.
Yeah, that's what I said.
And when you spoke to Deputy Green, it was about, I think the records show they didn't arrive on the scene until 10:22 or something like that. Is that right?
That sounds right. I mean, I think that's what the records show. That sounds right.
And that were you lying to Deputy Green when you told him what time, how long you thought you'd been at your mother's and the last time you saw Maggie and Paul?
No, sir. I wasn't lying to him.
Were you trying to mislead him in any way?
No, sir. Not when Mr. Green got there.
Now, you've admitted in the first few questions that I asked you yesterday and multiple times today that you lied to Agent Owen and Deputy Rutland and Agent Owen and Agent Croft, and on a couple occasions about your whereabouts following dinner, correct?
I did lie to them, as we discussed repeatedly.
And you've explained that it was this addiction, opioid-induced.
Oh shit! Is he sleeping?
Paranoia you just couldn't shake.
Is that guy sleeping?
Is that right?
That's right. Like I said, there's certain things, anything, that make you paranoid, but I could get over it really quickly. But that night, I didn't.
And you had a bag of pills in your pocket, did you not?
I did.
Baggy.
And
oh shit! He knocked out. Damn.
When you
he's up now.
Got down to the kennels, we're not going to repeat all that, but I mean, did you ever see anybody down there? Anybody else?
Was this one asleep? Oh no, he's on his phone.
No, there was nobody. There wasn't anybody down there when I was there.
And did you believe that the information, whether you were there or not there,
this guy
would
was sleeping.
advance their investigation in any way?
No, I didn't. I didn't think that.
And why didn't you think that?
Because they were fine and doing good when I left there.
Sleep texting. On some Murdaugh shit.
Did on the 911 call, do you remember that the call first went to Hampton?
I don't remember that, but I know that now.
And what we played here in the court in your testimony was the Colleton County handoff. Do you recall that?
I do recall that. Okay. I think at some point the part in Hampton might have gotten played too, didn't it? But I know the main part was the Colleton part, but it was like a minute into the call.
But initially it went to Hampton, then subsequently it was transferred to Colleton.
That's right.
And then a minute or so into the Colleton call, you said, "I've been up to it now." Do you remember that?
I do remember saying that. I remember hearing it. I don't remember saying that, but I remember hearing it.
Okay.
And that is accurate. And by up to it, at that point, I had gone all the way up to them at that point. When I first got out, I was close, but I wasn't right at them, I don't think.
Right. You were asked about the roadside shooting, and your intent was to end your life that day, was it not?
It was, no question.
And you were shot but not killed, and then you made up a lie to law enforcement about what happened, right?
That's correct.
Were you trying to protect Curtis Eddie Smith by doing that?
Was I trying to protect Curtis Eddie Smith?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I don't know exactly. It all had to come together so quick. I don't know that I was trying to protect Curtis Eddie Smith.
Okay.
I may have been, but it was just, you know, I wasn't supposed to be there. And then I was.
When you say I wasn't supposed to be there, what do you mean by that?
I intended for him to, I intended to be gone. I intended for him to shoot me, and I intended to be gone. And the one thing, my main concern at that point was that I did not want Buster. I did not want Buster knowing that I had tried to do that.
Okay.
That was my motivation in telling that story.
I see.
Come on, Eddie.
Did you eventually voluntarily convey to Agent Kelly and others that was a fabrication?
I did. After, I don't know, a few days in detox, when I finally got over those initial, just where I could just function, I think I told you first, then I think I told Buster, then I think I told Randy and John, and y'all arranged either the next day or 2 days later to come, and we called Ryan Kelly.
Well, you've lied to your family over many years, have you not?
I lied to my family about my addiction.
And you hid from them you were stealing client money, did you not?
Oh, I never, they didn't know anything about that.
And you've lied to your law partners about financial dealings and perhaps your addiction?
Yes.
And you've lied to law enforcement about not going down to the kennels after dinner, but eating dinner and taking a nap. Did you not?
I did.
Alec, did you murder Maggie?
I would never hurt Maggie.
Did you murder Paul?
I would never hurt Paul. If I was under the pressure that they're talking about here, I can promise you I would hurt myself before I would hurt one of them. Without a doubt.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Okay.
Orders.
Please, court.
I asked you about the money, the finances.
You said that you were concerned when you talked to David Owen about the bag of pills in your pocket, correct?
I mean, no, sir, I'm not saying that I was concerned about that. I don't think I told you I was concerned about that. I'm just telling you that was a fact. I had a bag of pills in my pocket, and that was one of the things, that was one of the many things that came together that night.
And you're trying to tell this jury that as a reasonable husband and father in this situation, concern about a bag of pills in your pocket was more important to you
Pillgate.
Been telling law enforcement,
Let's go. Pillgate.
narrowing the time when you last saw your wife and son alive. That's what you want to convince this jury of?
No, sir, because, I mean, the bag of pills in my pocket was not what I was concerned about sitting in there. It was, as I said, it was one of the many things that was going on. But I wasn't sitting there worried about those pills in my pocket.
Oh, shit, I'm off the screen.
You were asked about requesting the phone and automobile data. And that was because, as a prosecutor and a lawyer, you had been manufacturing an alibi to cover your tracks.
No, sir, that's absolutely wrong.
You almost want to smile. Oh, damn, he's just staring him down. Jesus.
You admit you were wrong about a lot of things in what you told law enforcement about June 7th. Correct?
I was wrong about things. Some things.
You were asked whether or not you voluntarily confessed to Agent Kelly, but you only did so after being confronted with undeniable information. Correct?
No, sir, that's not correct at all. What I was told is that, and I believe this came from Randy, what I was told is that SLED had come up with some information that seemed like it was consistent with my story, and they needed me to verify some things, is what they told me. And, you know, I knew that resources had already been wasted. I didn't want them wasting any more resources, and I told them the truth, but there wasn't any, nobody had presented me with any evidence.
And you just testified that you told Jim Griffin first, correct?
I believe that I told Jim Griffin first.
But at that time, you didn't say anything about those kennels, did you?
To Jim Griffin at that
Correct.
time? No, sir, I didn't.
When you testified on direct yesterday, and you were asked about leaving the kennels with your new story, in light of the evidence that's been presented in this trial, your words were, "I got out of there," correct?
I believe that's what I said, yes, sir.
And you also said during your testimony on cross-examination that you hurt the ones you love the most, didn't you?
I did say that.
Thank you. Nothing further.
In saying that, Mr. Waters, I just want to explain that answer.
It's over. No.
I mean, he just asked me a question about what I said, and I was going to explain why I said it.
No.
As I told you earlier, you're implying to this jury and to me that was me talking about hurting Maggie and Paul. And that's not what that was. What that was is me saying, I know I hurt my brother, my partners, my clients, many of whom I told you I loved, all of whom I cared for. And that's what that was when I'm talking about how my misdeeds, how I hurt the people worst were the ones I loved the most.
I just asked you what you said, correct, Mr. Murdaugh?
Oh, he came back from
You did ask me what I said, but in asking me that, you're putting an implication on there that I am explaining.
I just asked you what you said.
Okay, yes, sir.
Thank you. Nothing further.
All right, Alec going out with a little bang there. I don't want to let you try to play me, try to cut me off and play me like that. He made it off the fire. He survived.
So I'll stand for a moment while
That was
Councilman
ballsy. That was ballsy. He made it. He survived. Can we hear the counsel? Oh, this is like a sidebar. So now what happened with the expert that the defense had? I guess they're going to have to hold off to the weekend now? They're going to have to spend a whole lot of money. Somebody sent me an email and they were like, was the prosecution doing this on purpose? So they got to pay up all this money?
Lied repeatedly to law enforcement, and he said yes. You lied to your family about your addiction, and he said yes. You lied to your family about stealing, and he said yes. You lied about going to the kennels, he said yes. Now this is his defense attorney, remember? So you're following this line going, where is he going with this other than this man is a compulsive liar? And then he said, did you murder your wife Maggie? And he said, no, I would never hurt Maggie. Then he said, did you murder your son Paul? And he said, no, I would never hurt my son Paul. So I think obviously Jim Griffin there trying to make the point that even though his client has shown to be a compulsive liar, while admitting lies, you know, he's not admitting that.
Yeah, he basically, Murdaugh saying, I'd rather hurt myself than hurt Maggie and Paul. So the testimony is over. We have more on the testimony on our website, WLTX.com. We have our team there at the courthouse right now. We're going to have complete coverage of what was said today in court. Coming up with you, Andrea.
Yeah, we will see you at 5 o'clock.
City, please.
Bonnie, I got your email. Thank you.
Well, we've come to the end of this week, and we will adjourn now and resume at 9:30 Monday morning. Have a great weekend. Do not discuss the case or allow yourself to be exposed to any information concerning the case. And we'll see you Monday morning. Have a great weekend. Jury is excused.
We're gonna do a little poll, guys. There you go. Order. Full board. Full board. Somebody must have told him about yelling. He kind of toned it down now.
Everyone be seated, please.
Let's get it. Hash it out now. Let's argue. Come on.
Regarding scheduling, first up Monday morning, Mr. Harpootlian.
Your Honor, we anticipate having 4 witnesses on Monday. They would probably average an hour apiece. So I would suspect by lunchtime we would be, no?
Early afternoon.
Early afternoon, I'm told by Mr. Griffin, resting our case. And of course, Mr. Waters indicated he'll have 1 or 2 reply witnesses.
A couple right now, Your Honor. Obviously, we need to assess that when they complete their case, but it would not be lengthy.
A couple.
So that begs the question, what day next week do we do argument and charge?
Well, it's all unpredictable. As we can see from today, it's pretty unpredictable.
I'm guessing. I'd hope Tuesday. I don't think that's going to be, if they have any reply witnesses. Wednesday would be more of a target. I'm just saying a target date that we can begin thinking about in terms of argument and charge. To that end, are you going to set a time limit on arguments, or are you going to just let us do whatever we want?
I do not set time limits on argument.
Okay. With that in mind, Mr. Griffin and I mean, they get 2 arguments. We perhaps would like to split our final argument, which would, we think, with 4 weeks of testimony in there, it's going to be difficult for one person to digest all of that. There's no problem with that, is there?
Your Honor, I would object to that. I think Your Honor's rules and general practices consistent with one counsel handling argument.
Your Honor, I've seen it done both ways, and 4 weeks of testimony, I think it's very difficult for one person, and we only get 1 argument.
I've never done it, and I'm not inclined to do it. I'll look it over and consider it, but I'm not inclined to allow the defense to split closing arguments.
We would agree to a 2-hour limit. Does that maybe incentivize to look at this?
We'll look at it. I'm not inclined to do it. It's unprecedented, as far as I know, in the state of South Carolina. Except perhaps where you've been able to convince someone to the contrary.
I've actually objected to it when I was on his side of the courtroom.
Well, we have some days to think about that.
Yes.
Regarding closing arguments, I think we've emailed you all a few days ago concerning any requested charge or charges that you might have.
Yes, sir. We'll get those to you this weekend, if that's acceptable.
So what is the charge argument?
We'll try to do that, Your Honor, but we're preparing witnesses. How about Monday night?
That's fine.
Okay.
Anything else before we adjourn?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Nothing from the defense, Your Honor.
Okay, 4:49. We are adjourning for the weekend.
All right. We made it. So make sure you put in a vote right now. Alex Murdaugh trial, do you feel so far, which we're pretty close to the end, you know, we're getting right around there. I mean, the way it sounds like we're going to go into the middle of next week, Wednesday. That's why it's good that I picked the Saturday to start moving. I mean, those couple of days during the week, I'll start making some trips after trial and stuff. But the main thing will be Saturday, so I don't have to stress out or anything like that. They're probably going to take next week, and then who knows. Okay, hold on. Albania Nisa says charge argument is exactly what is read. Oh, okay, what is read. The law to jury, what they can and cannot consider, is very, very specific. Every word matters, and the state decides if they're going to be lesser. Okay. So that's going to be boring, I guess. Yo, Airdrie, I feel you, but Airdrie's in my house is getting very dirty. I got to do a little bit of cleaning and then packing. Let me get some of these super chats. Thank you guys so much for the journey that we've been on with this trial. Thank you for hanging with me. This is I mean, we've been here, I guess, 4 weeks, no? Maybe a little bit more. So Courtney, thank you so much for the super chat. Says he's a liar, but is telling the truth now. Damn it. Miss Dog Lover, his dog stepped on chicken. Rest in peace, chicken. Miss Dog Lover, blood pressure medication causes swollen feet. Ginny Ann, thank you for becoming a member. Appreciate it. Thank you for the support. Miss Mojo Rising, it takes longer than a few days to recover. The shakes, the sweats, the visions you see. Brandy, what's up? Thank you for the stars, the 500 stars on Facebook. Appreciate that. And SW4x4, thank you, Mel. You're a rock star. Thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you to the mods as well that I've been writing out. Thank you for everybody in the chat. Melissa, thank you. Melissa, thank you for the super chat. Says thank you, Mel. You're amazing. Thank you. You've been writing out too through everything, so thank you so much, Melissa. And I got a couple of emails that somebody here said, wait, will the state could lessen the charges? Likely they could say, I want to offer the judge murder 3. That would be effed up. What? Don't procrastinate. It's the worst. Take your time. Yeah, it's true. So I only really see myself coming back later if there's like a chase. If there's a chase, I'll come back. But for now, I think I'm just gonna chill. Try to rest, try to feel better. And the same goes for the weekend. If there's a chase, or like maybe I'll do a short video. The votes so far say, and Vicky, thank you so much again too for the memberships. Appreciate that. 60% say guilty, 31% say reasonable doubt, 9% say undecided. Interesting. All right, guys, man. We will talk. Love you. Have a good night. Hit like. I'm going to transfer you to the other stream for Monday, so just make sure you go over there. Hit like, please. Hit like on there, and hit the little button to notify you as well, just in case you don't miss it. And if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that. Take care. Love you guys. Peace. Bye. And if you missed the earlier stream today, there's 2 parts. You can watch